It was obvious that the four of them had heard of Yao Pingin's bad reputation. They all knew that wherever Yao Pingin appeared, nothing good would happen. Especially in the current situation, that guy might do something very overboard. Mr. Yang, this should be the place you were talking about, right? At this moment, Yao Pingin, who was dressed in a black robe, smiled and looked at a middle-aged scholar beside him. The middle-aged scholar was holding a compass in his hand. When he heard this, he could not help but look at the black hole-like space in front of him and frown. It should be the right place, but we are late. The opportunity there has probably been taken by someone else. As he spoke, his gaze was already fixed on the two figures in front of him. It was Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Following the middle-aged scholar's gaze, Yao Pingin also saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. A dangerous glint immediately flashed across his eyes. He said leisurely, "Is that so? If that's the case, I'll just ask them for it. One believe they won't reject my request." Hearing his words, other than the middle-aged scholar, the three people present could not help but laugh. One of the short-haired men said, "Junior brother Yao is right. A part of the Cloud Wave Lake is in the territory of our Kun Mountain sect. In a way, our Kun Mountain sect has jurisdiction over the Cloud Wave Lake. In the territory of our Kun Mountain sect, no cultivator has dared to reject our junior brother Yao's request." As soon as the short-haired man finished speaking, Yao Pingin and the others noticed the four men who were trying to leave quietly. Their expressions immediately turned cold. "Why are you all leaving as soon as you see me? Do you not like me?" The expressions of the four people changed. The blue-robed man hurriedly said, "Young Master Yao, don't misunderstand. We just happened to pass. We have no intention of staying." "Oh, really?" A faint smile immediately appeared on Yao Pingin's face. "Then why did one seem to hear you complain about me appearing here? Did my ears play a trick on me? Or are you fooling me?" When he said the last sentence, the smile on Yao Pingin's face disappeared, and an extremely cold, killing intent spread out. The four of them had a bad feeling. Without delay, they immediately turned into four streaks of light and fled in four different directions. Just now, they could clearly feel that Yao Pingin wanted to kill them to prevent anything that happened here from spreading. "Senior brother Liu." Yao Pingin suddenly looked at the short-haired man and the others. The short-haired man and the others smiled evilly. "Junior brother Yao, don't worry, they can't leave." As soon as he finished speaking, the short-haired man and the others turned into several streaks of light. Dazzling spiritual lights were reflected on the surface of the lake. Two of the four men, who were escaping with all their might, immediately let out a scream. At two different places, two headless corpses fell and were quickly sinking to the bottom of the lake. The remaining blue-robed man and the white-robed young man were terrified. They didn't expect the people around Yao Pingin to be so powerful. Two Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators actually died in the hands of those people before they could make a move. At that moment, the blue-robed man and the white-robed young man had the same thought. That was, they could not continue escaping. If they continued to escape, they would be caught up by the short-haired man and the others sooner or later and end up like their other two companions. With this in mind, the blue-robed man and the white-robed young man did not hesitate at all. They immediately turned around and rushed in the direction of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Seeing the blue-robed man and the white-robed young man flying towards them, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked indifferent. They just watched and had no intention of interfering at all. When two of them were about to be caught up by the short-haired man and the others, they shouted, "Don't kill us, we're really just passing by. They are the ones who came out from there. If there are any opportunities or treasures, they will definitely be on them. Go and kill them. Of course we know you didn't come out of that place." The short-haired man sneered and said, "Unfortunately, you saw something you shouldn't have, so you must die." As soon as he finished speaking, the Dharma treasures in the hands of the short-haired man and the others swept past the necks of the blue-robed man and the white-robed young man. The two corpses that fell were instantly drowned by the boundless lake water. From then on, only Jiang Chengxuan, his wife, and Yao Pingin's cohort were left. "Are you Yao Pingin?" Jiang Chengxuan was the first to speak. Yao Pingin and the short-haired man could not help but be stunned. They really did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to have the balls to ask a question. Yao Pingin smiled and nodded, "That's right, I am." After a pause, Yao Pingin continued, "I believe the two of you must have obtained a lot of good things from that place, right? I'm I'm very interested in what's inside. I wonder if you can share it with me. Share it with you? A playful smile suddenly appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. He looked at Yao Ping'an and said calmly, "If I share what's inside with you, can you let me and my Dao companion leave?" "Let you and your Dao companion leave?" Yao Ping'an clearly did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to make such a request. He was first taken aback when he heard this, then he smiled and shook his head. "I'm afraid not. As you know, I don't like others to know my secrets. Therefore, I cannot agree to your request. However, there is one thing I can promise you. If you're willing to take the initiative to hand over what you took away from inside to me, I can give you a quick death. Don't worry, there won't be any pain. I'm sure you know that there are many things in this world that are more painful than death. Is that so? Then there's no need to waste our breath." Jiang Chengxuan suddenly sighed with resignation. The middle-aged scholar beside Yao Ping'an immediately felt that something was wrong. However, before he could remind Yao Ping'an, he suddenly heard a tearing sound beside his ear. The head of a red-haired burly man among them actually flew up into the air. The headless corpse quickly plunged into the water and disappeared. This immediately shocked the middle-aged scholar, the short-haired man, and the others. Yao Ping'an's expression instantly stiffened. Buzz. At the same time, a protective golden light suddenly lit up around the other scar-faced youth. However, the protective golden light only lasted for a moment before it was quickly extinguished. Then there seemed to be a breeze whooshing past. The body of the scar-faced youth was suddenly torn into pieces, looking like it disassembled on its own. After being washed away by the lake water, the broken body was nowhere to be seen. What is going on? Yao Ping'an, the remaining short-haired man, and the middle-aged scholar were all in disbelief. One had to know that the two people who died just now had reached the 5th level of the Foundation establishment realm. "Who the hell are you?" Yao Ping'an immediately fixed his gaze on Jiang Chengxuan, who had reappeared not far away from them, and said coldly, "How dare you kill someone from my Kun Mountain sect?" Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately shook his head in his heart. It seemed like Yao Ping'an was really used to being a bully. He didn't even understand the situation he was currently in. How could he still say these arrogant words at a time like this? At the same time, the short-haired man suddenly took out a scarlet scimitar. The surface of the scimitar seemed to be surrounded by lava. As soon as it appeared, all the surrounding lake water evaporated. When the middle-aged scholar saw this, he did not stay idle either. He reached out and waved. A black dagger suddenly turned into a black light and shot towards Jiang Chengxuan at an unbelievable speed. Clang, 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 clang. A series of metal collisions suddenly sounded in front of Jiang Chengxuan. His clear lake sword actually collided dozens of times with the pitch-black dagger in just a few breaths. In the end, the clear lake sword suddenly let out dazzling rays of light, causing the pitch-black dagger to fly back hundreds of meters. This caused the middle-aged scholar to groan. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Before he could figure out what was going on, he suddenly heard a scream. He turned around to see the short-haired being sent flying by Jiang Chengxuan's purple flame sword. The purple flame sword was enveloped in raging fire as it pierced through the short-haired man's chest and turned him into a ball of flames. "Senior brother Liu." This scene stunned Yao Ping'an. One had to know that the short-haired man had already reached the late-stage Foundation establishment realm. But in the end, he could not even withstand a few moves from Jiang Chengxuan. What kind of monster was he? For the first time, a trace of fear rose in him. At this moment, the middle-aged scholar who had been with him suddenly changed direction and fled into the distance. "Yang Zhongyuan, how dare you?" Yao Ping'an was shocked and furious. He never expected that Yang Zhongyuan, who he had invited, would choose to leave him behind and escape. Damn it! Just when Yang Zhongyuan's figure was about to disappear from sight, a huge hand formed by Dharma power suddenly landed on Yang Zhongyuan's escape path. In an instant, the lake water churned. Yang Zhongyuan, who was escaping with all his might, was caught off guard and smashed into the gigantic hand. "Ah, Violet Palace Realm Cultivator!" He immediately screamed in fear. This was something he didn't see coming. Why would a cultivator at the Violet Palace Realm show up here? Moreover, why would he be targeted by the Violet Palace Realm cultivator? Suddenly, Yang Zhongyuan seemed to have thought of something. His eyes suddenly widened as he said two words with difficulty. It's her. Indeed. From the beginning to the end, be it Yang Zhongyuan or Yao Ping'an, they seemed to have ignored the Tao companion beside Jiang Chengshuan. It turned out that she was the most terrifying existence among them. To think that they were still thinking of targeting them previously, he realized how ignorant he was. Yang Zhongyuan smiled bitterly. Soon, his figure was crushed by the huge hand and turned into a bloody mist. Violet Palace Realm Cultivator. Yao Ping'an was also shocked by the scene just now. Clearly, he did not expect that the Tao companion of Jiang Chengshuan was actually at the Violet Palace Realm. What was going on? Why would a dignified Violet Palace Realm cultivator find a Foundation Establishment cultivator to be her Tao companion? Was there something wrong with her brain? Just as these thoughts flashed through his mind, he saw Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes suddenly turn to him. He was so frightened that he immediately shivered and shouted, "Senior, spare me! Senior, spare me! My ancestor is Yao Jiangshan. Senior, please don't hold against a junior like me on account of my ancestor." What happened just now was purely a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? A mocking smile appeared on Shen Ruyan's face. Was it a misunderstanding when you asked us to hand over the things just now? Was it a misunderstanding when you threatened to take our lives? Or was it a misunderstanding when you got people to follow us in secret and try to attack us? What? Yao Ping'an was stunned by her last sentence. He did not understand what she meant. However, Shen Ruyan clearly did not intend to waste her breath on him. She raised her hand. Seeing this, Yao Ping'an suddenly had a fierce look on his face. A talisman that emitted lightning had appeared in his hand at some point in time. This was a level 3 talisman, the Cloud Lightning Snake Talisman. It could pose a threat to ordinary Violet Palace Realm cultivators. Go to hell. With that, Yao Ping'an suddenly turned to Jiang Chengshuan, who was not far away. He actually wanted to throw this level 3 Cloud Lightning Snake Talisman at Jiang Chengshuan. However, before it could be completely activated, the huge hand formed by Shen Ruyan's Dharma power grabbed it. "My talisman!" Yao Ping'an immediately shouted. However, at the same time, the huge hand had already slapped him. Boom! A terrifying power erupted. Before Yao Ping'an could even make a sound, he was slapped into nothingness. Shen Ruyan played with the level 3 Cloud Lightning Snake Talisman and could not help but mutter to herself. "Using a lightning talisman in front of me, who has 5 lightning Tao body, you are simply courting death." As she spoke, Shen Ruyan had already thrown the talisman in her hand to Jiang Chengshuan. "Husband, this level 3 Cloud Lightning Snake Talisman is not used. Take it as a trump card." Hearing this, Jiang Chengshuan did not stand on ceremony with his Tao companion and immediately put away the level 3 Cloud Lightning Snake Talisman. After that, the couple did not stay here any longer. After collecting everyone's storage bags, they quickly disappeared. At the same time, Kun Mountain Sect. In a magnificent palace, an old man with sharp eyes suddenly let out a roar. Who is it? Who killed my grandson? I'll definitely make them beg for death." After Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan left the Cloud Wave Lake, they did not return to the Kun Mountain Market. Instead, they changed directions and headed straight for the North Cloud Market under the jurisdiction of the North Cloud Sect. It was to buy some things they needed. After breaking through to the Violet Palace realm, she had to purchase new medicinal pills and precious materials that were in line with her realm. As for Jiang Chengshuan, he needed to buy the 5-element spiritual items needed to temper his body, and the main material needed to refine a level 3 Dharma treasure. It was called Empty Sky Stone. Coupled with the grand white metal stone he had obtained from Lin Tianfen, he could refine the Golden Void Sword. Of course, before that, he still had to raise his weapon refinement cultivation to level 3. And this process required a large amount of resources. When the couple arrived at the North Cloud Market, they quickly walked into a shop called the North Spiritual Tower. This was considered the largest shop in the North Cloud Market. Behind it was the North Cloud Sect. The quality, type, and quantity of the items inside were not something other shops could compare to. The only problem was that the things sold in the North Spiritual Tower would be more expensive than other places. However, this was exactly what Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan did not worry about. At this moment, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan did not hide their auras. Therefore, when they entered the North Spiritual Tower, they immediately attracted the attention of everyone. In almost no time, an old cultivator at the perfected foundation establishment realm came over to welcome them. "Senior, it's our honor to have you here. You can call me Old Fang." As he spoke, the shopkeeper of the North Spiritual Tower, who called himself Old Feng, bowed to Shen Ruyan repeatedly. This was very normal. In the current cultivation world of the Yun Nation, the Violet Palace realm was definitely considered a high-level cultivator. It belonged to the upper echelon of the pyramid. From the North Cloud sect and as the shopkeeper of the North Spiritual Tower, although Old Fang was considered someone with a high status, in front of a Violet Palace realm cultivator, he was nothing. "What do you need, Senior and this fellow Taoist?" Old Feng smiled and asked Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan warmly. In his opinion, Shen Ruyan, who was at the Violet Palace realm, and Jiang Chengxuan, who was at the Perfected Foundation Establishment realm, were definitely big clients of the North Spiritual Tower. "Do you have level 3 Dharma treasures, medicinal pills, precious materials, and level 3 empty sky stones now?" Shen Ruyan told Old Feng what she needed. Elder Feng thought about it seriously and said to Shen Ruyan with a serious expression, "Senior, one need to check before I can answer you. I'll bring you to the guest lounge to rest for a while. After one confirm it, I'll give you an answer. How about that?" "Sure." Shen Ruyan nodded. Soon, she and Jiang Chengxuan arrived at the guest lounge on the top floor of the North Spiritual Tower under Old Feng's personal lead. After a while, someone brought over spiritual tea and some spiritual fruits and placed them in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Old Feng smiled and said, "Senior, and this fellow Taoist, this tea is the best spirit-sobering tea in our North Spiritual Tower. These spiritual fruits are also the best spiritual fruits in our North Spiritual Tower. You can try them. 111. Go and check to see if we have the things you want." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. Soon Old Feng left. A moment later, Old Feng walked back with a few items. He placed these things in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and smiled. "Senior, please take a look. These 3 are the 3 low-grade level 3 Dharma treasures that we currently have. They are the Soaring Shuttle, the Underworld Fire Spear, and the Heavenly Light Umbrella." The Soaring Shuttle was a level 3 flying Dharma treasure. At the critical moment, it could also be used to fight enemies. Cultivator 2. The advantage was that it was fast. Other than that, there was nothing special about it. Shen Ruyan had the level 3 intrinsic Dharma treasure, the flying sword called the 5 Lightning Immortal Slayer. Coupled with the fact that she was proficient in many lightning element escape techniques, speed was her advantage. Therefore, she really didn't need the Soaring Shuttle. As for Spear, there was even less need for because she already had the 7 Evil Treasure Spear on her. Both of them were spear-type Dharma treasures. Shen Ruyan did not need that many at all. On the other hand, Shen Ruyan was a little interested in the Heavenly Light Umbrella. It was a defensive Dharma treasure. Once it was taken out, it could produce layers of smoke-like clouds in the surroundings. It could be used for defense and concealment. It was a relatively good low-grade level 3 defensive Dharma treasure. Then Shen Ruyan looked at the other things that Old Feng had brought. For example, the level 3 Purple Essence Pill. It was a medicinal pill used to recover the Dharma power of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. There was also the level 3 9 Sun's Wood. Was a material used to refine wood element Dharma treasures. Another one was the Brilliant Thunder Purple Gold. It was a spiritual item used to assist in cultivating a level 3 lightning element spell. However, after Shen Ruyan looked through all these things, she did not find the empty sky stone that they needed the most this time. Therefore, she looked at Old Feng and asked, "Don't you have any level 3 empty sky stones in the North Spiritual Tower?" Hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Old Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "To be honest, Senior, we really don't have the level 3 empty sky stone you want the moment. In fact, rare materials like the empty sky stone rarely appeared in the normal market. It appeared mostly in those large-scale auctions or corresponding trade fairs." Shen Ruyan obviously knew this very well. Hearing that there was no empty sky stone, she and Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but be a little disappointed. However, one know that in a few months, there will be a Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair hosted by the North Cloud sect in North Cloud Market. At this moment, Old Feng continued. "At that time, Senior, you can go there and take a look. Perhaps you can raid for the empty sky stone you want." Hearing Old Feng's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were delighted. As the name suggested, the people attending such a trade fair were basically all Violet Palace Realm cultivators. The things that everyone traded were all level 3 or above. They might really be able to trade for the empty sky stone there. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already decided that in a few months, they would participate in Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair. Even though Jiang Chengxuan's current cultivation had yet to reach the Violet Palace Realm. However, with Shen Ruyan, his Dao companion, around, the North Cloud Sect W would definitely nor stop him from entering. At that moment, Shen Ruyan bought some basic level 3 medicinal pills and precious materials from Old Feng. For example, Purple Essence Pill and the Brilliant Thunder Purple Gold. She spent a total of tens of thousands of spirit stones. After that, she bought some refining materials and the extreme yellow spirit Jade for Jiang Chengxuan. Then there were the 5-element spiritual items needed for his body tempering technique. Unfortunately, in North Spiritual Tower, they could only buy fire, metal, and water element spiritual items. The armor would heavenly dew, and the thick earth primordial water were not available in the North Spiritual Tower. They could only wait for the Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair to begin to see if they could trade for some. In the end, she spent another 50,000 spirit stones to buy the low-grade level 3 defensive Dharma treasure, the Heavenly Light Umbrella. In total, their spending in the North Spiritual Tower had almost reached 100,000 spirit stones. This sum of money could be said to be quite huge, even for Violet Palace Realm cultivators. Fortunately, she was a Violet Palace Realm cultivator. Otherwise, even a shop like the North Spiritual Tower would probably have some designs on their storage bags. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan came out of the North Spiritual Tower, they immediately rented a level 3 cave abode in the North Cloud Market and prepared to stay for a few months. During this period, Shen Ruyan needed to stabilize her newly advanced realm. Jiang Chengxuan used the materials Shen Ruyan had bought for him to increase his weapon refinement cultivation. At the same time, he took the opportunity to refine his true essence at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. He wanted to reach the perfected stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm in the shortest time. Just like that, a few months passed in a flash. On this day, Jiang Chengxuan had just successfully refined the most basic low-grade level 3 material when the restriction in quiet room he was in was activated. This immediately made him realize that the Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair was probably about to begin. Indeed, the moment he walked out of his quiet room, Shen Ruyan, who had been waiting outside for a long time, immediately smiled and said, "Husband, it's about time. Let us go to the trade fair now." As they spoke, the couple walked out of the cave abode. This Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair was arranged to be held in a place called the Dawn Garden. When the two of them arrived, they realized that there were already many people gathered here. They were all either Violet Palace Realm cultivators or their Dao companion. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had just found a seat when a surprised voice suddenly sounded in their ears. "Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, you're here too." They turned around. Not far from them, an acquaintance appeared. It was the young lady of the Moon Watcher sect, Huang Linger, whom they had saved that day. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a white Confucian robe followed beside her. This person had a refined bearing and was handsome. Especially the white hair at his temples, it added a lot of charm to him. He was definitely a handsome middle-aged man. However, at this moment, there was a look of seriousness on Shen Ruyan's face. She couldn't help but send a voice transmission to Jiang Chengxuan. "Husband, the person beside Huang Linger is not simple. He's probably already half a step into the Golden Core realm." Half a step into the Golden Core realm. Jiang Chengxuan was shocked. Cultivators who were half a step into the Golden Core realm had already condensed a fake Golden Core and were regarded as fake Golden Core cultivator. Their Dharma powers, abilities, and even methods had already surpassed the 9th level of the Violet Palace realm and truly touched the Golden Core domain. What they lacked was an opportunity, a serendipity, or even an inspiration. He did not expect the person beside Huang Linger to have such an extraordinary cultivation. At this moment, the couple already had a guess as to the identity of the refined man. Just when they realized this, Huang Linger said to the refined man beside her, "Father, their brother Jiang and sister Shen, whom one told you about before. They were the ones who saved Grandpa Wu and me." If not for them, Grandpa Wu and I would probably never be able to see you again." Hearing his daughter's words, the middle-aged man, Huang Wenyu, the sect master of the Moon Watcher sect, looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and greeted them with a smile. "Previously, I heard from Linger and Bairn that they encountered a few demonic cultivators from the Phantom Cave in the Fallen Leaves mountain range. Fortunately, you helped them out. On behalf of the entire Moon Watcher sect, thank you." As he spoke, Huang Wenyu bowed to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Seeing this, the couple hurriedly returned the greeting. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "Sect Master Huang, you're welcome, it's nothing." Seeing that the person who spoke was actually Jiang Chengxuan and not Shen Ruyan, the Violet Palace Realm cultivator, a trace of surprise flashed across Huang Wenyu's eyes. Then, he smiled and shook his head. "To the two of you it might be nothing, but what you did saved my daughter. Therefore, you deserve this gratitude no matter what." As he spoke, Huang Wenyu took out a Jade token from his body and handed it to Jiang Chengxuan with a smile. "This is the Moon Watcher token. It's a gift from the Moon Watcher sect to those who we are indebted to. With this token, you can ask the Moon Watcher sect to do something for you for free. As long as it's within the Moon Watcher sect's capabilities, we will not refuse." The couple did not stand on ceremony. They immediately took the token. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "In that case, we will accept your gift." Huang Wenyu nodded with a smile. At the same time, the Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair hosted by the North Cloud sect officially began. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others immediately turned to the stage. On the stage, a beautiful middle-aged woman had already walked up. She was wearing a long yellow dress with white clouds embroidered on the edge. The aura on her body was also extremely powerful. It was shockingly a Violet Palace Realm cultivator who had reached the 9th level. At this moment, Huang Wenyu said, "That person is one of the elders in the North Cloud sect who has the highest chance of condensing a golden core in the past few hundred years. Her name is Yun Yuezhen, and she's only 300 years old." 300 years old. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were slightly stunned. Indeed, it was not easy to cultivate to the 9th level of Violet Palace Realm in 300 years. According to this speed, as long as she could condense a fake core in the next 50 years, there was hope for her to try to break through to the Golden Core realm. If she could take some life-prolonging spiritual items during this period, even if she failed to break through to the Golden Core realm the first time, she might have a second chance. No wonder Huang Wenyu said that among the elders in the North Cloud sect, she had the highest chance of condensing a golden core. At this moment, Yun Yuezhen, who was on the stage, raised her hand and cupped her fists at everyone. "Fellow Taoists, welcome to the Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair organized by our North Cloud sect. Without further ado, let's begin." As she spoke, Yun Yuezhen took out several items from her bag. They were a high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure, a bottle of high-grade level 3 medicinal pills needed by late-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivators, and a cloud-like thing. There seemed to be a light flickering in it, making it look very strange. At this moment, Yun Yuezhen continued, "Everyone, a high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure, a bottle of high-grade level 3 magic spirit pill, and a ball of high-grade level 3 brilliant cloud starlight. I don't think I need to say much about the value of these 3 items. Here, one want to exchange for level 3 water element spiritual items of equal value or treasures that can strengthen the soul." Hearing her words, some Violet Palace Realm cultivators who were originally tempted immediately revealed a look of disappointment. Obviously, they didn't have what Yun Yuezhen wanted. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a fiery red Taoist robe said, "Fellow Taoist Yun, I have a bottle of level 3 extreme cold heavenly ice. Although it's not a level 3 water element spiritual item, it's definitely a rather precious ice element spiritual item. I wonder if I can exchange it for that bottle of level 3 magic spirit pills." Level 3 extreme cold heavenly ice. Yun Yuezhen's eyes narrowed slightly before she nodded and said, "Sure." The middle-aged man in the fiery, red Taoist robe was overjoyed. Without another word, he immediately went on stage to exchange for the bottle of magic spirit pills. Seeing this, another goateed cultivator at the 8th level of the Violet Palace realm rook a grayish-brown stone from his body and looked at Yun Yuezhen. "Fellow Taoist Yun, this is a level 3 Shadow Soul Stone. Although it is not a top-notch spiritual item that can strengthen the soul, it also has the effect of strengthening the soul and even tempering it. I wonder if I can use it to exchange for that high-grade level 3 Dharma treasure from you. Shadow Soul Stone. Seeing the item that the goateed cultivator took out, Yun Yuezhan's face was obviously filled with joy. Compared to a spiritual item that could only strengthen the soul, this spiritual item that strengthened the soul and had a certain effect of tempering the soul was more in line with her wishes. She immediately nodded at the goateed cultivator. Sure. The goateed cultivator was also delighted. Soon, two of them successfully completed the deal. The last item, Brilliant Cloud Starlight, was an excellent spiritual item for refining protective Dharma cloaks. Most importantly, even cultivators below the Violet Palace realm could use the protective Dharma cloak refined by Brilliant Cloud Starlight. Therefore, its value was even higher than high-grade level 3 Dharma treasures and high-grade level 3 spirit pills. Several cultivators wanted to trade with Yun Yuezhan, but the things they took out could not compare to the value of the Brilliant Cloud Starlight. Yun Yuezhan could only politely refuse. Linger, your level 2 Dharma cloak seems to be damaged, right? At this moment, Huang Wenyu suddenly said to his daughter. In that case, I might as well refine a level 3 cloak for you. As he spoke, he did not wait for his daughter to speak and took an aqua blue spiritual herb from his body. Then, he looked at Yun Yuezhan on the stage and said, Fellow Taoist Yun, do you think it's a problem for me to exchange this sky blue water for your Brilliant Cloud Starlight? Sky blue water. Upon hearing this item, Yun Yuezhan's face immediately revealed a hint of surprise. Then, she noticed the identity of the person who spoke, and her expression immediately turned slightly solemn. So it's Sect Master Huang from the Moon Watcher sect. Of course, it's not a problem for you to exchange the sky blue water for this Brilliant Cloud Starlight. However, Sect Master Huang, I'm afraid you will inevitably suffer a loss. After all, strictly speaking, revalue of sky blue water is higher than the Brilliant Cloud Starlight. How about this? In addition to this Brilliant Cloud Starlight, I will also pay you 40,000 spirit stones to exchange for the blue sky water from you. Sect Master Huang, what do you think? This was the benefit of being powerful. If the person who spoke was not Huang Wenyu, but an ordinary Violet Palace realm cultivator, Yun Yuezhan would definitely not take the initiative to suggest adding another 40,000 spirit stones. When Huang Wenyu heard Yun Yuezhan's offer, he immediately smiled and nodded. Sure. After a while, the two of them completed the deal. After the deal, Huang Wenyu did not leave the stage. Instead, he took out a few more items from his body and smiled at everyone. Fellow Taoists, I happen to have something to trade with you. As he spoke, he pointed at the items he took out and smiled. A moon-gazing fruit that can extend one's lifespan by 50 years, a level 3 azure dragon wood crystal, a level 3 wind speed stone, and a heavenly palace pill that can allow a mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator to break through to the late stage. I don't have anything one particularly need for the time being. Everyone, show me what you have. If one think it's good, we can exchange. Seeing the few items Huang Wenyu took out, everyone present couldn't help but reveal a look of desire. Needless to say, everyone wanted the moon-gazing fruit that could extend one's lifespan by 50 years. The azure dragon wood crystal was one of the 5 elemental crystals. It could help a cultivator increase the probability of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm by 30%. At the same time, it was an excellent level 3 weapon refinement material. The wind speed stone was a spiritual item that could assist in comprehending wind element spells. At the same time, it could be fused into one's Dharma treasure to increase the speed of the Dharma treasure. As for the last Heavenly Palace pill, it could help a mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator break through to the late stage. There was no need to mention its value. Immediately, several Violet Palace realm cultivators took out the treasures in their bag, wanting to exchange for the things in Huang Wenyu's hands. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were quite tempted by the moon-gazing fruit. They weren't particularly in need of the moon-gazing fruit. However, they wanted to give it to Shen Yuanlong and Shen Mengsu. Perhaps Shen Mengsu wouldn't need it. After all, given her status, she must have eaten a lot of life-prolonging spiritual items. She might have eaten this moon-gazing fruit before. If that was the case, the moon-gazing fruit would be useless to her. According to the rules, cultivators could only consume the same life-prolonging spiritual item once. After one time, the life-prolonging spiritual item would lose its effect on them. However, Shen Yunlong was different. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan knew very well that he had never consumed any life-prolonging spiritual item. This also meant that if Shen Yuanlong consumed the moon-gazing fruit, his lifespan would increase by 50 years. This would be of great significance to them and the entire Shen family. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately said to Huang Wenyu, "Sect Master Huang, we're willing to buy that moon-gazing fruit for 200,000 spirit stones. Is that okay with you?" When they suddenly heard Jiang Chengxuan's offer, many Violet Palace Realm cultivators present could not help but look at him in surprise. Especially when they realized that Jiang Chengxuan was only a foundation establishment cultivator, the surprise in their eyes became even more obvious. Some people could not help but reveal greed in their eyes. Whether it was the moon-gazing fruit or the 200,000 spirit stones, it was enough to make people have evil thoughts. However, at this moment, Huang Wenyu smiled and shook his head at Jiang Chengxuan. "Since fellow Taoist Jiang wants it, I'll sell this moon-gazing fruit to you for 100,000 spirit stones." Hearing Huang Wenyu's words, the surprise on everyone's face intensified. What was Jiang Chengxuan's relationship with Huang Wenyu, the sect master of the Moon Watcher sect? He could actually make Huang Wenyu take the initiative to lower the price. This was very impressive. Almost instinctively, at this moment, those who had designs on Jiang Chengxuan immediately gave up. At the very least, before they really understood the relationship between Huang Wenyu and Jiang Chengxuan, they would not act rashly. If they angered Huang Wenyu, a fake golden core cultivator, they would be in serious trouble. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan did not stand on ceremony. He immediately nodded. "In that case, thank you, Sect Master Huang." Soon, Jiang Chengxuan exchanged for the moon-gazing fruit from Huang Wenyu for 100,000 spirit stones. As for the other 3 items Huang Wenyu took out, especially the azure dragon wood crystal, although Jiang Chengxuan was tempted, he didn't want to leave an impression on Huang Wenyu as a greedy person. So, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not compete for the azure dragon wood crystal, and the remaining 2 items Huang Wenyu took out. After a while, the 3 items were traded away. When Huang Wenyu returned to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's side, the couple immediately stood up and cupped their fists to thank him again. Huang Wenyu smiled and waved his hand. "You saved my daughter and Wu Baron's lives. What one did is nothing. Oh right, I forgot to ask just now. Did you come to this trade fair to exchange something in particular? If so, why don't you tell me? If I have it on me, I might as well trade it with you." At this moment, Huang Linger, who was at the side, interrupted. "That's right. Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, if there is anything you specially want to exchange, why don't you tell my father? Perhaps he has it." Huang Wenyu did not reprimand his daughter for interrupting him. Instead, he reached out and patted her head dotingly. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. The couple did not hide it. Instead, they told Huang Wenyu and the others about their needs. When Huang Wenyu heard this, he immediately took out 2 jade bottles from his body and handed them to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan with a smile. "I don't have the level 3 empty sky stone you mentioned. However, one happened to have some armored wood heavenly dew and thick earth primordial water here. 111 trade them with you." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were delighted to see the armored wood heavenly dew and the thick earth primordial water. Previously, Jiang Chengxuan lacked these 2 5-element spiritual items to temper his body. Now that he had obtained them from Huang Wenyu, he could start cultivating his infinite wheel again after this trade fair. The couple thanked Huang Wenyu profusely. However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly felt a malicious gaze fixating on them. This stunned the 2 of them. Soon they saw who was staring at them. It was an old man with a 3rd-level Violet Palace Realm cultivation. His face was old, but his eyes were extremely sharp. However, at this moment, his gaze was no longer on Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Instead, it was on a cultivator who was preparing to trade with everyone on the stage. This made the couple puzzled. They were certain that they had never seen the old man before, let alone know him. However, his undisguised malice just now was palpable. Who is he? Why does he have such malicious intent towards them? Do you have a grudge against Yao Jiangshan? Clearly, Huang Wenyu, as a fake golden core cultivator, also sensed that malicious gaze just now. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and ask curiously. What Huang Wenyu said dawned on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. It turned out that that person was Yao Jiangshan. It seemed like he knew that the two of them had killed his great-grandson, Yao Ping'an. However, they did not know how he found out about this. It should be some secret technique or blood connection technique. In the cultivation world, there was no shortage of strange techniques. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not surprised. If he wanted to avenge his great-grandson, to be honest, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were really not afraid of him now. The two of them briefly explained what happened to Huang Wenyu. When Huang Linger heard this, a look of disgust appeared on her face. I've heard of Yao Ping'an. It's said that he's a bully. Many people seem to have been killed by him. Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, you've done a good deed by killing him. Hearing Huang Linger's words, Jiang Chengxuan, his wife, and Huang Wenyu didn't comment. In the cultivation world, right and wrong were not that important. What was really important was strength and background. Only those with similar strength and background were qualified to talk to others about right and wrong. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a joke for a Qi refinement and foundation establishment realm cultivator to discuss right and wrong with a Violet Palace realm cultivator, or even a Golden Core realm cultivator? Of course, they would not tell Huang Linger about this now. It was still early for her to understand the cruelty of the cultivation world. Do you need me to step in? At this moment, Huang Wenyu looked at the couple and asked with a smile. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately shook their heads. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "We appreciate your kindness, Sect Master Huang, but we can handle this matter ourselves. We won't trouble you." Huang Wenyu nodded. "If you need anything, you can tell me at any time." At this moment, the trade fair was still ongoing. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at the stage for a while and realized that the things that everyone took out now were all what they needed or wanted. This was normal. After all, it was a Violet Palace realm trade fair. One of them had just broken through to the Violet Palace realm, and the other was still at the perfected foundation establishment realm. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted by the level 3 treasures that everyone took out. However, although they were tempted, they did not continue to make an offer. Firstly, the price of the level 3 treasures that everyone took out was too high. Although the two of them had obtained a lot of wealth previously, it would probably be gone soon if they really used it to buy those level 3 treasures. Moreover, they knew they should keep a low profile. When they bought the moon-gazing fruit from Huang Wenyu, it had already attracted the attention of many people. Unless it was necessary, they really did not want to go on the stage again. Just like that, a few days passed and the entire trade fair was about to come to an end. At this moment, a man in a purple robe suddenly walked onto the stage. He took out 2 items from his body. There was a mid-grade level 3 moonlight flower, and a stone that was completely silver with many small holes on its surface. Seeing the silver stone, Jiang Chengxuan, who had not been able to trade for an empty sky stone at the trade fair, was immediately excited. Because he had already recognized that the silver stone that the purple-robed man took out was the level 3 empty sky stone he needed. Everyone. At this moment, the purple-robed man said, "I want to use this level 3 moonlight flower and this level 3 empty sky stone to exchange for a high-grade level 3 medicinal pill alchemy formula or a level 3 divine power. The divine power can be of the 5 elements or other elements. Of course, if you don't have either, you can use spirit stones to exchange for it." Hearing his words, some people below the stage could not help but reveal mocking expressions. It was true that the moonlight flower and empty sky stone he took out were both quite good things. Especially the empty sky stone. It was the main material for setting up the mountain protecting array, refining weapons, and teleportation arrays. It was worth a lot. It was reasonable if he wanted to use it to exchange high-grade level 3 pill formula. However, it was ridiculous for him to use it to exchange for a level 3 divine power. As everyone knew, after cultivators broke through to the Violet Palace realm and transformed their true essence into dharmic powers, they could cultivate divine powers. This was something more profound and powerful than spells of the same level. Some powerful divine powers could even allow one to fight people above their level. However, most Violet Palace realm cultivators didn't have divine powers. The reason was very simple. With the ability of a Violet Palace realm cultivator, it was quite difficult to obtain a divine power, even if it was the most basic and ordinary kind. Many Violet Palace realm cultivators could not obtain any divine power in their entire lives. it could be seen how precious divine powers were. At this moment, an old man in a red Taoist robe suddenly said to the purple-robed man, "I have a mid-grade level 3 pill formula. I wonder if I can exchange it with you for that moonlight flower." The purple-robed man was slightly disappointed when he heard the old man in the red Taoist robe. However, he also knew that it was extremely difficult for him to use a moonlight flower and an empty sky stone to exchange for a divine power. There he didn't dwell on it, and immediately nodded at the old man in the red Taoist robe. "Fellow Taoist, if your mid-grade level 3 pill formula is not the purple essence pill formula, I can exchange it with you." The old man in the red Taoist robe immediately smiled and said, "Don't worry, this pill formula is the pill formula for refining the heaven restoration pill. Sure." Soon, the two of them completed the deal. At the same time, Yang Chengxuan was about to speak when a sinister-looking man on the other side beat him to it. "I'll pay 80,000 spirit stones to buy your empty sky stone. What do you think?" Hearing the sinister-looking man's words, the purple-robed man hesitated. To be honest, 80,000 spirit stones for an empty sky stone was quite a fair trade. However, he still wanted to wait and see if anyone else offered a higher price or a treasure that he was satisfied with. This made the sinister-looking man's eyes darken slightly. Just as he was about to speak, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly looked at the purple-robed man on the stage and said, "I'll pay 100,000 spirit stones to buy your empty sky stone. What do you think?" Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the purple-robed man did not say anything, but the sinister-looking man's expression suddenly changed. He really did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to try to snatch it from him. This made his expression turn very ugly. However, he did not dare to do anything to Jiang Chengxuan. After all, Huang Wenyu's attitude towards Jiang Chengxuan said a lot. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that there was definitely a relationship between the two. If he, Chu Bakying, dared to threaten Jiang Chengxuan at this moment or say something he shouldn't have, he would undoubtedly be disrespecting Huang Wenyu, a fake core cultivator, in front of everyone. Anyone with a brain would understand how serious this problem was. However, at the same time, the empty sky stone was quite important to him. If possible, he really did not want to miss it. Left with no choice, he could only look at Jiang Chengxuan and say, "Fellow Taoist, I'm Chu Bakying. That empty sky stone is very important to me now. I hope you can do me a favor by letting me have it. 111 definitely remember your kindness and repay you in the future." Hearing his words, some people who knew what kind of person Chu Bakying was could not help but feel surprised. However, on second thought, they understood. Indeed, with Huang Wenyu around, Chu Bakying had no choice but restrain himself. Yang Chengxuan did not expect that Chu Bakying would do this. If he wanted the empty sky stone, he could just offer a higher price. They could bid for the item fairly. But what was he doing now? Just because Chu Bakying said that the empty sky stone was very important to him, Jiang Chengxuan had to let him have it. If Jiang Chengxuan said no, wouldn't it make him look like he was a petty person? Then what if Jiang Chengxuan said that the empty sky stone was more important to him and asked Chu Bakying to let him have it? Without thinking, Jiang Chengxuan knew that Chu Bakying wouldn't agree. It was obvious that Chu Bakying talked to him nicely because he was aware of Huang Wenyu. These kinds of people bullied the weak and feared the strong. They did not have much of a principle. This kind of people, Jiang Chengxuan had no tolerance. He smiled at Chu Bakying and said, "So it's Senior Chu, I'm really sorry. This empty sky stone is also very important to me. So, I can't let you have it, my apologies." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the expressions of some people present immediately changed. Some people looked like they couldn't wait to watch a show. Chu Bakying's expression was ugly. He did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to really reject him. This made him furious, and killing intent towards Jiang Chengxuan rose. Fortunately, he hit it very well. His expression was slightly stiff as he smiled. "In that case, I'll let you have this empty sky stone." With that, he retreated to the back of the crowd. He lowered his head. No one knew what he was thinking. Jiang Chengxuan, naturally, couldn't be bothered with his feelings. At this moment, he had already completed the deal with the purple-robed man. However, just as he returned to Shen Ruyan and Huang Wenyu's side, Huang Wenyu reminded him, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, I've more or less heard of Chu Bakying's character. This person is unreasonable and domineering. He will seek revenge for the smallest grudge. If you and fellow Taoist Shen encounter him in the future, you have to be careful. Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but ask Huang Wenyu. Sect Master Huang, do you know where that person came from? What's his cultivation level? Huang Wenyu thought for a moment and replied, I don't know the details, but one know that he was an independent cultivator. Now he seems to have established a Violet Palace Realm sect called the Absolute Heaven sect. Now, he's the supreme elder of the Absolute Heaven sect. As for his cultivation, it's not too high. He's only at the second level of the Violet Palace Realm. I believe fellow Taoist Shen should have already sensed it. At this point, Huang Wenyu did not continue with this topic. Instead, he said, by the way, after this trade fair ends, 111 return to the Moon Watcher sect. What are your plans? Do you want to come to the Moon Watcher sect with us? Huang Linger chimed in. That's right. Brother Jiang, Sister Shen, why don't you come and stay in the Moon Watcher sect for a period of time? That way we can show our hospitality. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and shook his head. Sect Master Huang and Miss Linger, my wife and I appreciate your kind invitation. Now we still have some matters to attend to in the North Cloud Market. In addition, we have been out for a long time. Therefore, after dealing with the matters here, we might have to go back. In the future, if there's a chance in the future, the two of us will definitely pay you a visit. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Huang Wenyu only nodded slightly. On the other hand, Huang Linger looked a little disappointed. However, she still nodded in understanding. All right then, when you have time in the future, remember to come to the Moon Watcher sect. Yes, we will. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at her. Just like that. About 2 hours later, the Violet Palace Realm Trade Fair officially ended. When they came out of Dawn Garden together, Huang Wenyu immediately said to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, fellow Taoist Shen and fellow Taoist Jiang, let's part ways here. With that, Huang Wenyu brought his daughter, Huang Linger, out of the North Cloud Market and quickly disappeared into the distant sky. After the trade fair, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not in a hurry to leave the North Cloud Market. Instead, they found another level 3 cave abode to stay in. Now, both of them needed to digest some of the gains this time. Jiang Chengxuan needed to use the 5-element body-tempering spiritual items he had obtained to try to cultivate infinite wheel to perfected early stage. It would be best if he could complete the mission given by the system during the process. He also needed to think about the level 3 intrinsic Dharma treasure he wanted to refine. As for Shen Ruyan, she also needed to refine the level 3 defensive Dharma treasure that she bought, the Heavenly Light Umbrella. More importantly, she wanted to complete the cultivation of a divine power called the Purple Lightning Flame Saber before they returned to the Shen immortal family. This divine power came with the new memory that had only awakened after she broke through to the Violet Palace realm. It described in detail the method and key points of cultivating this divine power, as well as the might it could bring out. It was not an exaggeration to say that as long as she could successfully cultivate this divine power, they would not have to worry at all even if they encountered cultivators at the 4th level of the Violet Palace realm, which was the middle stage. Time passed slowly. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan stayed in the North Cloud Market for another year. In this year, Jiang Chengxuan had already used the 5-element body-tempering spiritual item to completely perfect the early-stage infinite wheel. At this moment, his physical strength was already enough to withstand the attack of a high-grade level 2 Dharma artifact. Although he was not completely impervious to the damage, it was impossible to seriously injure or kill him. At the same time, his resistance to the 5-element spells had also increased. At least among level 2 spells, there were very few 5-element spells that could really threaten him. Most importantly, after he cultivated infinite wheel to early-stage perfection, the mission given to him by the system finally reached 100%. Congratulations, host. You have achieved 100 cultivations of a body-tempering technique. You have obtained a physical divine power, Dragon Elephant Divine Power. Dragon Elephant Divine Power, also known as the power of the Heavenly Dragon and Divine Elephant. It has an incomparably terrifying power. Its power will increase as your cultivation increases. You can also cultivate it and comprehend it on your own. When cultivated to a profound level, it has the might to shatter the world with a flick of your finger. It was naturally impossible for the current Jiang Chengxuan to have such terrifying power. However, after obtaining this physical divine power, the dragon elephant divine power, if his physical strength really erupted at full force, he could already truly threaten a cultivator at the Violet Palace realm. Unlike before, he could only use the fire meteor sword technique for once when facing someone above his realm. At this moment, with the breakthrough bead he had obtained from the system previously, he could already attempt to break through to the Violet Palace realm. Furthermore, with the help of the breakthrough bead, he might be able to comprehend some special divine powers that only belonged to him from the process of breaking through. However, just as he was about to adjust his state and make his very first attempt to break through to the Violet Palace realm in one go, the communication Jade talisman he carried suddenly shook violently. This immediately shocked him. He took out the communication Jade talisman and took a look. As he read the content, his expression changed drastically. Just now, their ancestor Mengsu passed away in her cave abode. This news undoubtedly dealt a huge blow to him, Shen Ruyan, and the entire Shen family. All along, the greatest backer of the Shen family was actually not Shen Yuanlong, who was at the 4th level of the Violet Palace realm, but Shen Mengsu, who was the first Violet Palace realm elder of the Ganyang sect. With her around, even if Shen Yuanlong was gone, the Shen family could still hold their fort in the cultivation world. With her around, the Shen family and Zheng Pelong were associated in a way. Now that she had passed away, the Shen family had undoubtedly lost a pillar of support. The blow was heavy, especially when the family head, Shen Dayaming, had yet to come out of seclusion and the ancestor, Shen Yuanlong, was facing the end of his life. The entire Shen family could be said to have reached the most difficult and even dangerous period. It was quite possible for others to take advantage of them while they were down. I have to go back early. This thought flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's mind. He had already walked out of his cultivation room. Outside, Jiang Chengxuan saw the door of Shen Ruyan's cultivation room open. At this moment, there was also a look of solemnity on her face. Upon seeing Jiang Chengxuan, she immediately said, "Husband, you should have received the news from the family as well, right? It seems like we need to go back early." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Ancestor Mengsu passed away, and brother Dayaming hasn't come out of seclusion. We really can't stay here anymore. By the way, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly thought of something and asked, "How's the cultivation of your divine power, the purple lightning flame saber? Did you succeed?" At the mention of this, a faint smile appeared on Shen Ruyan's face. She said with a nod, 3 days ago, one successfully cultivated this divine power. With our strength combined, even if we encounter a mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator now, we have the chance of winning. Good. A smile also appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. At that moment, he told Shen Ruyan about how he had obtained the physical body divine power, the dragon elephant divine power. When Shen Ruyan heard this, she couldn't hide the joy on her face. "I really didn't expect you to be able to obtain a physical divine power at the Foundation Establishment realm. This is really unbelievable. In that case, we should be able to leave the North Cloud Market without a hitch." Actually, the couple knew very well that the enemies they made on this trip wouldn't let them leave so easily. Especially Yao Jiangshan. The two of them had killed his most beloved great-grandson. At that time, with Huang Wenyu around, he did not dare to make a move. Now that Huang Wenyu was not around, if the two of them really left the North Cloud Market, he might attack them at any time. And Chu Bakyang, with his desire for the empty sky stone at that time and his notorious character, he would probably be ambushing the two of them somewhere on their way back. Especially when he knew that the two of them might have a lot of wealth. At this moment, the couple had already left the cave, abode they had rented for the past year. At this moment, in a restaurant, Yao Jiangshan, who was paying attention to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's cave abode, suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked at Chu Bakyang, who was drinking opposite him. "Fellow Doyas Chu, stop drinking. The two of them have come out." In fact, at this moment, Chu Bakyang had also sensed that Jiang Chengxuan and his wife were out of the cave abode. His eyes narrowed as well. He said, "Fellow Taoist Yao, we've already agreed. After you and I kill that couple, the empty sky stone on that kid will belong to me. The rest will be divided equally between the two of us. You won't go back on your word, right?" "Don't worry, I'm a man of my word." As soon as Yao Jiangshan said this, his face lit up. He immediately said to Chu Bakyang, "Fellow Taoist Chu, quick, They're about to leave the North Cloud Market. On this side, after Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan left North Cloud Market, they immediately headed to the direction of Flat Land County. The speed of the two of them was extremely fast. In a short while, they flew tens of thousands of kilometers. However, at this moment, a spear with a terrifying aura and a huge net with a dark green color suddenly closed in on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. They finally made a move. In fact, the moment they left the North Cloud Market, they had already sensed the two people following them. Yao Jiangshan and Chu Bakying wanted to deal with Jiang Chengxuan and his wife, but by the same token, the couple also wanted to deal with the two of them before returning to Flat Land County. Crackle, facing the dark green net that was going to devour her and Jiang Chengxuan. Dazzling lightning suddenly lit up on Shen Ruyan's body. Then she grabbed Jiang Chengxuan, who was beside her, and the two of them instantly flashed out of the range of the dark green net at an unbelievable speed. Immediately after, clouds rolled over and completely hid the couple. Damn it, it's a level 3 defensive Dharma treasure. It was only at this moment that Yao Jiangshan and Chu Bakying appeared behind the couple. Seeing them, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes turned cold. The couple wasted no breath on the two of them. Shen Ruyan's figure suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning. As lightning flickered, a spear filled with killing intent stabbed towards Yao Jiangshan. It was the 7 evil treasure spear that she had obtained from Lin Tianfen. Seeing this, Yao Jiangshan snorted. He opened his mouth and spat. With a buzz, a flying sword suffused with green light faced Shen Ruyan's spear head-on. Boom! The 2 level 3 Dharma treasures collided in midair and immediately sent out terrifying shockwaves. On the other side, seeing that he couldn't break through Shen Ruyan's heavenly light umbrella for the time being, Chu Bakying decided not to waste any more time. Instead, he turned around and charged at Jiang Chengxuan. He planned to deal with Jiang Chengxuan, a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator, first. That way, not only could he give Shen Ruyan a fatal psychological blow, but he could also take away the empty sky stone first. After all, at the trade fair, he paid close attention and saw that the empty sky stone was put away by Jiang Hengxuan, not Shen Ruyan. Swoosh! The Dharma treasure spear left an afterimage in the air and arrived in front of Jiang Chengxuan in the blink of an eye. Are you targeting me because you think I'm easy to kill? A trace of coldness flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's eyes as he tapped his waist gently. With a clang, the clear lake sword instantly flew out of his body. Immediately after, rings of fire began to appear on the clear lake sword. Fire meteor sword technique. Rumble! Fiery meteors fell from the sky one after another. They smashed into Chu Bakying's Dharma treasure spear, immediately causing it to vibrate non-stop, preventing it from advancing at all. This scene shocked Chu Bakying and Yao Jiangshan, who was not far away. What is going on? Jiang Chengxuan was only at the Foundation Establishment Realm, but he was actually able to withstand the Dharma treasure attack of a Violet Palace Realm cultivator like him. It is simply unbelievable. However, after the initial shock, Chu Bakying suddenly exploded with an extremely strong killing intent. At the Foundation Establishment Realm, he was already able to block the Dharma treasure attack of a Violet Palace Realm cultivator. Then what would happen after he advanced to the Violet Palace Realm? Such a dangerous threat must be eliminated. At the thought of this, Chu Bakying injected more Dharmic powers into the Dharma treasure spear, causing it to immediately emit an extremely dazzling light. Bang! The fiery meteors that Jiang Chengxuan slashed out shattered. This made the killing intent in Chu Bakying's eyes even more intense. He said in a ferocious tone, "Kid, I'll let you understand today that the power of a true Violet Palace Realm cultivator is not something a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator like you can imagine." Die! Boom! The terrifying spear light immediately shattered the 99th fiery meteor that Jiang Chengxuan slashed out. Jiang Chengxuan quickly retreated to a safe distance. He knew that his fire meteor sword technique could be used to deal with ordinary cultivators who had just advanced to the Violet Palace Realm. However, if he wanted to use it to deal with a cultivator like Chu Bakying, who had already reached the 2nd level of the Violet Palace Realm, it was far from enough. At the thought of this, he stopped hesitating. The clear lake sword vibrated crazily. Buzz! In an instant, balls of fire spread out and enveloped the entire clear lake sword, causing it to slowly transform into a meteor as it faced Chu Bakyang's Dharma treasure spear. It was the 100th fiery meteor, Crimson Light. Accompanied by scorching heat, a small sun rose in the air. As the meteor collided with the spear light, countless rocks and trees below collapsed and shattered. Not far away, Yao Jiangshan, who was fighting Shen Ruyan, could not help but reveal an incredulous expression. That's impossible. Indeed. It was indeed impossible for an ordinary 9th-level Foundation Establishment realm cultivator to slash out such a powerful sword technique. It was even more impossible for him to last for so long in the fight with a 2nd-level Violet Palace realm cultivator. However, the problem was that he, Jiang Chengxuan, was not an ordinary 9th-level Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. But even so, after the 100th meteor, Jiang Chengxuan was also sent flying. Chu Bakyang, who had just recovered from the aftershock, had a fierce look in his eyes. Without another word, he immediately became one with his spear and charged at Jiang Chengxuan, who was flying backward. He wanted to completely end Jiang Chengxuan's life with absolute strength. He could not give him any chance to make a comeback. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the level 2 defensive Dharma artifacts that Jiang Chengxuan took out to block the attack were all knocked down by Chu Bakyang. Looking at Jiang Chengxuan, who was already inches away from him, a sinister smile crept up on Chu Bakyang's face. Kid, this time, I want to see what other abilities you have to escape from me. As soon as he finished speaking, he prepared to use his Dharma treasure spear with all his might to completely turn the kid in front of him into a bloody mist. However, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan, who was still flying backward and trying to use various methods to block Chu Bakyang's attack, suddenly had a strange smile on his face. Immediately after, under Chu Bakyang's dumbfounded gaze, Jiang Chengxuan reached out and grabbed his Dharma treasure spear. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly tightened his grip on the Dharma treasure spear. Chu Bakyang immediately felt his body moving uncontrollably towards Jiang Chengxuan. How is this possible? Chu Bakyang had a look of confusion all across his face. He would never have dreamed that the strength of a Foundation Establishment cultivator could actually shake the Dharma treasure of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. This simply overturned his understanding. However, something even more terrifying was about to happen. Just as Chu Bakyang's body was infinitely approaching Jiang Chengxuan, the phantoms of a heavenly dragon and a divine elephant suddenly appeared behind Jiang Chengxuan. It disappeared in a flash. Before he could understand what was going on, he felt his body suddenly tremble. In the next moment, his protective dharmic power was broken. Then a fist with infinite strength smashed down his body. Bang! At this moment, Chu Bakyang was sent flying backward like a cannonball. Rumble! After smashing through a few mountains, he finally stopped. With a closer look, one could see that there was a huge hole in his chest. An unreasonable and domineering power was crazily destroying his body. Arg! For no reason, Chu Bakyang spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but think to himself. The vitality of a Violet Palace realm cultivator is indeed not something a Foundation Establishment cultivator can compare to. Even so, Chu Bakyang was not dead, he was only seriously injured. Little did he know that at this moment, Chu Bakyang was experiencing an unprecedented fear. He raised his head with difficulty and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. Divine power. Clang. It was also at this moment that a sharp sword cry suddenly sounded in the air. Chu Bakyang's eyes widened. He could not help but shout. Fellow Taoist Yao, save me. Crack. However, just as he finished speaking, a flying sword with 5-colored lightning swept past his head and destroyed his body and soul. What? Yao Jiangshan, who had yet to come back to his senses from the mind-blowing scene, was suddenly pulled back to reality. His pupils constricted as he spat out a few words with difficulty. Intrinsic Dharma treasure flying sword. After cultivators broke through to the Violet Palace realm, they could indeed try to refine their intrinsic Dharma treasures. However, not everyone had such conditions. Not to mention that refining an intrinsic Dharma treasure required an extremely huge amount of resources. Just the refinement method alone stumped many Violet Palace realm cultivators. At the very least, with Yao Jiangshan, Chu Bakyang, and the others' conditions, there was no way they could refine their intrinsic Dharma treasures. This was also the main reason why Yao Jiangshan had such a strong reaction, after seeing Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer. It turned out that while fighting him, Shen Ruyan didn't use her full strength at all. After realizing this, Yao Jiangshan couldn't help but feel extremely terrified. Just now, without using her intrinsic Dharma treasure, she was able to fight him, who was the 3rd level, to a draw. Now that she had taken out her intrinsic Dharma treasure, Yao Jiangshan did not dare to continue imagining. Without any hesitation, he turned around and scurried away. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan snorted. "You want to leave? Can you leave?" With that, Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer suddenly turned into a brilliant 5-colored lightning and slashed at Yao Jiangshan. Rumble! An earth-shattering thunder suddenly sounded from the void. Yao Jiangshan, who was flying away with all his might, suddenly felt danger approaching infinitely from behind. How could this speed be so fast? Clang! Having no time to think, he released his green Dharma treasure flying sword again. However, as soon as his green Dharma treasure flying sword collided with Shen Ruyan's 5 thunder immortal slayer, it immediately let out a wail, and the entire sword lost its spiritual light. Obviously, it was severely damaged. Immediately after, the 5-colored lightning formed by the 5 lightning immortal slayer struck Yao Jiangshan. Arg! A scream sounded in the air. Then a charred figure staggered out. Shen Ruyan seized an opportunity and controlled the 5 lightning immortal slayer to slash down again. Rumble! The dazzling 5-colored lightning formed in the air and fell on Yao Jiangshan. Yao Jiangshan immediately took out a white bead, wanting to block it. However, under the bombardment of the 5-colored lightning, his white bead only lasted for an instant before a crack appeared on its surface. Then the spiritual light disappeared and it fell. "No, I can't accept this." Yao Jiangshan roared with indignance. At this moment, Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer finally slashed at him. There was a ripping sound. Without any suspense, Yao Jiangshan was slashed into 2 by the 5 lightning immortal slayer. Then the sword chi twisted. Yao Jiangshan's body instantly turned into a bloody mist. From then on, Yao Jiangshan and Chu Bakying, who had come to hijack and kill the couple, both died. At that moment, Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not linger. After the couple put away their storage bags and cleaned up the mess, they each rode a beam of light and continued their journey to Flat Land County. However, before they left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan both looked in a certain direction. In the distance, a look of surprise appeared on the face of a figure. A young girl beside him asked in confusion, "Father, how is the situation?" It turned out. At this moment, the 2 people in the distance were Huang Wenyu and Huang Linger, who had left the North Cloud Market a long time ago. When Huang Wenyu heard his daughter's question, he said thoughtfully, "They seem to have discovered us." "Discovered us?" Huang Linger was in disbelief. "How could that be?" "Father, are you talking about Brother Jiang and Sister Shen?" Huang Wenyu nodded. "Yes." With that, he glanced at his daughter and said, "Linger, don't underestimate Brother Jiang and Sister Shen. They are not ordinary people." "Not ordinary people." "That's right." Huang Wenyu nodded again. "One originally thought that I might be able to repay them for saving your life this time, but their actual strength far exceeded my expectations. 2 veteran Violet Palace Realm cultivators actually died in their hands." "Huh, father, you mean?" Huang Linger's eyes widened in disbelief. Huang Wenyu nodded firmly. "That's right, it's just as you think. Yao Jiangshan and Chu Bakying both died at the hands of the couple." "Hiss!" Huang Linger gasped. Before his daughter could ask again, Huang Wenyu told her everything he had seen. In the end, Huang Wenyu added, "From what I see, it's only a matter of time before the 2 of them reach the Golden Core Realm. Moreover, the rarest thing is that be it their character or temperament, they are among the best. Linger, if there's a chance in the future, you can build a good relationship with them." On the other side, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were rushing back to Flat Land County, had already counted their gains from this battle. It had to be said that the treasures of 2 Violet Palace Realm cultivators were indeed quite abundant. Putting everything else aside, there were more than 150,000 spirit stones in their storage rings. Next were the 3 Dharma treasures used by the 2 of them, and a Dharma treasure embryo. The 3 Dharma treasures were the Dharma treasure spear used by Chu Bakying, the green Dharma treasure flying sword used by Yao Jiangshan, and the dark green net. As for the Dharma treasure embryo, it was the white bead that had been shattered by Shen Ruyan. It was called the cloud sky bead. It could be considered a defensive Dharma treasure embryo. Finally, there were some medicinal pills, spiritual herbs, precious materials, and so on that could be used by Violet Palace realm cultivators. It was worth about tens of thousands of spirit stones. At this moment, Shen Ruyan said, "Husband, did you notice anything when we left there just now?" Jiang Chengshuan nodded readily. "If I'm not wrong, there should be two people staring at us." "Did you see who they were?" Yang Chengshuan shook his head with a solemn expression. "No. They seem to have used some kind of concealment spell. Even with my heavenly eye of insight, I couldn't see them clearly. However, one have a feeling that they should be people we know, and they didn't have any hostility towards us." At this point, the couple seemed to have thought of something and could not help but look at each other. Could it be them? As they pondered, the two of them sped up again. At the same time, Flatland County, splendid Jade Mountain. Shen Beifei, who was temporarily in charge of the Shen family, listened to Shen Rushwang and Xing Wandao's report. His expression turned very ugly. Not long after the news of their ancestor, Shen Mengsu, passing away, some Violet Palace realm immortal sects and families that were close to the Hong family immediately began to target the Shen family. First of all, some disciples of the Shen immortal family outside were made difficult by many different people, both openly and secretly. Secondly, even some of the businesses and markets under the Shen immortal family were boycotted by many cultivators. In the past 10 days, there were very few people who went to the White Jade market and were willing to trade with the Shen family. If this continued, it would not be long before the entire Shen immortal family fell into a resource crisis. Some even offered 500,000 spirit stones to buy the White Jade market from the Shen family. This made Shen Beifei and the other elders of the Shen family furious. It had to be known that the current White Jade market could provide the Shen family with tens of thousands of spirit stones every year. Someone actually wanted to buy their White Jade market for 50,000 spirit stones. This was simply intended as a humiliation. Bang! Shen Beifei immediately shattered the table in front of him. His expression was cold as he looked up at Shen Rushwang and Xing Wandao. Cousin Rushwang, Elder Xing, who wanted to buy the White Jade market for 50,000 spirit stones. Do they really think that with ancestor Mengsu gone, the Shen immortal family can be bullied at will? At this moment, Shen Rushwang and Xing Wandao's expressions were also very ugly. When they heard Shen Beifei's question, they remained silent for a moment. Then Xing Wandao said with difficulty, "It's the Zhang family." "What?" Shen Beifei was first stunned, then in disbelief. He did not expect that the person who wanted to buy the White Jade market for 50,000 spirit stones was actually from the Zhang family in Flatland County. After all, the relationship between the Shen family and the Zhang family had always been good. During the Demon Beast riot, Shen Yuanlong had fought side by side with the Zhang family's ancestor, Zhang Beiyang. However, it was the Zhang family who wanted to buy the Shen family's White Jade market for 50,000 spirit stones. Shen Beifei did not believe that the Zhang family, which was also a Violet Palace realm immortal family, did not know the value of the White Jade market. He did not believe that the ancestor of the Zhang family, who was at the Violet Palace realm, was not informed of this. Since he knew, he still allowed his family to do it. Shen Beifei could not help but look sad. It seems that even the Zhang family in Flatland County is not optimistic about the future of our Shen family. They want to take advantage of the fact that the Shen family is leaderless to slice off a piece of fat meat from the Shen family. Third uncle, is it possible that the ancestor of the Zhang family actually didn't know about this? At this moment, Shen Rushwang spoke hesitantly. Hearing her words, Xing Wandao immediately shook his head. It was possible for him not to know at the beginning. After all, Zhang Beiyang was in seclusion all year round. But now so many days have passed. Even if Zhang Beiyang did not know, the other ancestor of the Zhang family, Zhang Beishan, definitely knew. As far as I know, many important decisions of the Zhang family have to be approved by Zhang Beishan first because it can be implemented. I don't believe that the higher-ups of the Zhang family would hide such a thing from their ancestor, Zhang Beishan. Moreover, it's impossible for them to hide it. His words completely dispelled Shen Rushwang's doubts. A look of grief and indignation appeared on her face as she said hatefully, "How dare the Zhang family? Our ancestor is still around. Moreover, now that ancestor Mengsu has just left, isn't the Zhang family afraid of angering immortal Pelong?" Upon hearing Shen Rushwang's words, Shen Beifei and Xing Wandao smiled bitterly with a shake of their heads. Xing Wandao said, "Elder Rushwang, although immortal Pelong is ancestor Mengsu's Dao companion, he is not the son-in-law of the Shen family. He definitely won't interfere in such trivial matters. Because in the eyes of people at their level, as long as the Shen family was not in danger of being exterminated, he wouldn't step in. Most importantly," at this point, a solemn expression appeared on Xing Wandao's face. He continued, "The greatest danger of the Shen immortal family is actually not this." This time, even Shen Beifei could not help but look up at Xing Wandao with confusion. Shen Rushwang asked anxiously, "Elder Xing, if that's not the greatest, what is it?" Xing Wandao took a deep breath and slowly said, "Demonic cultivators." A demonic cultivator. Shen Beifei and Shen Rushwang were stunned for a moment before their expressions changed. Obviously, the two of them also realized this problem. One had to know that, as an old Violet Palace realm immortal family, the number of mortals under their protection had long exceeded 50 million. If at this moment, a demonic cultivator above the Violet Palace realm wanted to attack the mortal city under the Shen immortal family, with the Shen immortal family's current strength, they couldn't do anything. Once the mortals under the Shen immortal family were really massacred by demonic cultivators, it would undoubtedly cut off the roots of the Shen immortal family. One had to know that the most important foundation of a cultivation family or sect was the mortals under their protection. Only with enough mortals could children with spiritual roots be born, or even immortal seedlings with extraordinary cultivation talent. Without this foundation, no matter how good the inheritance was or how many resources there were, no one could inherit it. This might be less of an issue in the sects. However, to cultivation family with a long history, it was undoubtedly fatal. At this moment, Shen Beifei and Shen Rushwang could not help but look worried. Could it be that they really had to tell everything to their ancestor? One had to know that they had yet to tell Shen Yuanlong, who was in seclusion, about ancestor Mengsu's death. They really did not know how to put it. If their ancestor found out about this and was overcome with grief, the huge Shen family would probably collapse. "Why don't we go find the family head?" Shen Rushwang spoke hesitantly. Hearing her words, Shen Beifei and Xing Wandao immediately shook their heads. "Absolutely not." After a pause, Shen Beifei continued, "Now that the family head is in seclusion trying to break through to the Violet Palace realm, whether he succeeds or not concerns the fate of the Shen immortal family for the next few hundred years. At this time, unless there's a calamity that will threaten our very existence, no one should disturb him." Buzz. As soon as Shen Beifei finished speaking, the communication Jade tokens on him, Xing Wandao and Shen Rushwang suddenly vibrated. The expressions of the three people could not help but change slightly. At a time like this, the fact that the three elders received a message at the same time meant that something big must have happened. By the time the three of them finished reading the contents of the communication Jade talisman, their faces had already turned ashen. Shen Rushwang gritted her teeth and said angrily, "Those bastards." Just now, a mortal city called White River City under the Shen immortal family was suddenly attacked by demonic cultivators. In an instant, the 1.8 million people in the entire city became the targets of the demonic cultivators' blood sacrifice. Nothing like this would happen when the Shen family was at the peak. Shen Rushwang immediately looked at Shen Beifei and said, "Third uncle, we can't take this lying down. Why don't you let me and Elder Xing go to White River City to take a look? If there are still demonic cultivators, we'll definitely tear them into pieces." At this moment, Shen Rushwang, an alchemist who rarely participated in battles, had obviously lost her cool. Shen Beifei suppressed his emotions and tried his best to calm himself down. He glanced at Shen Rushwang and saw that her eyes were filled with anger. Then, he shook his head decisively. "Shuang, you can't go. Stay here at the splendid Jade Mountain and take charge of the situation. Elder Xing and one will go to White River City to investigate." At this moment, he knew very well. Once they left the splendid Jade Mountain, they might face unexpected danger. Even White River City might be a trap for them. But they had no choice but to go. If the Shen immortal family did not react at all to the fact a city under their jurisdiction was wiped out, what would the outside world think? What would many of their clansmen think? Most importantly, if they ignored this matter, would it fuel the arrogance of those demonic cultivators? What if they attacked their mortal city again? Were they supposed to hide in the splendid Jade Mountain and not do anything? Just as Shen Beifei decided to head to White River City with Xianxia to investigate the situation, on a hill 50 miles away from White River City, 5 cultivators surrounded by a bloody aura were paying close attention to the situation in White River City in the distance. At this moment, a short and fat man said, "Do you think the Shen family will send people to White River City?" Hearing his words, a skinny old man immediately laughed strangely. "Don't worry. Based on my understanding of the Shen family, they will definitely send people to investigate this matter. Besides, if they don't come." As he spoke, blood suddenly appeared in the eyes of the skinny old man. He said in an extremely cold voice, "We'll continue to slaughter those mortals until they appear." On the other side, an enchanting woman chuckled and said, "Fellow Taoist, Ku Rong is right. If the Shen family shrinks away, it will even be better. There are so many mortal cities under the Shen family. If we can use them all to feed the blood sacrifice, one believe we can even break through to the Violet Palace realm." Of course. At this point, the enchanting woman's expression gradually became serious. "Don't forget the true purpose of this mission. Attracting the Foundation establishment cultivators of the Shen family over is only the first step of our mission. According to Senior Gu Ling's requirement, luring that old fart out of seclusion is our end goal. Don't forget about this." Hearing the enchanting woman's words, the expressions of the short and fat man, the skinny old man, and the others became slightly solemn. Obviously, they knew that they were just bait to lure out the Shen family's ancestor. Suddenly, the enchanting woman's eyes narrowed. The short and fat man and the others present also seemed to have sensed something. They instinctively turned their gazes in the direction of White River City. There, 2 figures had already appeared. They were Shen Beifei and Xianxia, who had come to investigate. At this moment, the 2 of them looked at the apocalyptic scene in front of them and could not help but tremble. "Beasts, they are all beasts." Xianxia's face was red from anger. Just as he raised his head and was about to say something to Shen Beifei's pupils suddenly constricted, and his expression changed drastically. "Be careful." Boom! At this moment, a terrifying demonic aura erupted. 5 demonic Dharma artifacts of different shapes attacked Shen Beifei and Xianxia at the same time. They wanted to take advantage of the fact that the 2 of them were stunned by the scene in front of them and were agitated, hoping to severely injure them or even kill them in one go. Facing the 5 demonic Dharma artifacts that suddenly appeared in front of them, Shen Beifei and Xianxia did not have time to think. The 2 of them immediately took out the Dharma artifacts on them: a large saber and a pair of yin-yang heaven-splitting blades. However, they knew very well that it was almost impossible for them to rely on the Dharma artifacts to block the sneak attack of the 5 demonic Dharma artifacts. Thus, the 2 of them each threw out a talisman. Buzz! In an instant, a dazzling golden light shone. As the golden light faded, it revealed 2 burly men holding sabers, standing in front of the 2 of them. "It's the golden armored puppet talisman," the short and fat man exclaimed in shock. Ever since the demon beast riot back then, the golden armored puppet talisman that Jiang Chengxuan was famous for was no longer a secret. Many people knew about the existence of this talisman. Damn it! The 5 of them could not help but curse in their hearts. They knew that with the golden armored puppets around, it was probably impossible for the 5 of them to succeed in their sneak attack. Indeed, the 2 golden armored puppets suddenly cried out, and golden flames rose from their bodies. There was a loud bang. The 2 golden armored puppets actually chose to self-destruct. In an instant, a terrifying power swept out. It actually blocked most of the 5 demonic Dharma artifacts. Shen Beifei and Xianxia also heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the 2 of them had the golden armored puppet talisman that Jiang Chengxuan had given them back then. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, they also knew that this was just the beginning. Immediately, the 2 of them looked at the enchanting woman and the others, and their eyes widened. This was because they were shocked to discover that the strength of the 5 demonic cultivators in front of them was actually above the 5th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Among them, the enchanting woman, the short and fat man, and the skinny old man had reached the late-stage Foundation establishment realm. This made their hearts skip a beat. Demonic cultivators with such a high cultivation were actually sent to deal with the Shen family. Shen Beifei and Xianxia vaguely felt that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Fellow Taoists, what are you thinking? At this moment, the enchanting woman suddenly let out a series of bell-like laughter. She had a charming face and a voluptuous figure. As soon as she spoke, Shen Beifei and Xianxia felt a strange feeling in their hearts. Then the two of them immediately sensed that something was wrong. Their expressions turned cold as they said warily, "Bewitching technique, you are an enchantress." Upon hearing their words, a hint of surprise flashed across the enchanting woman's eyes. Then she chuckled. "It seems that the two of you have good knowledge. You actually recognize the technique I cultivate. In that case, do you want me to bring you to Cloud 9? As soon as she finished speaking, countless beautiful and attractive figures appeared in front of Shen Beifei and Xianxia. They kept waving at Shen Beifei and Xianxia and made all kinds of alluring poses. So much so that for a moment, Shen Beifei and Xianxia's eyes were a little dazed. It was at this moment that the short fat man and the skinny old man suddenly threw out several array flags. Buzz! In an instant, a terrifying demonic aura suddenly covered a radius of 5 kilometers. Shen Beifei and Xianxia were trapped in the center of the demonic aura. Not good. Their expressions changed drastically. They could clearly feel that they could no longer absorb any spiritual chi from the world. There was only a surging demonic aura. They had been completely cut off from this world by that array formation. This is bad. The two of them were instantly overwhelmed with a great sense of fear. At the same time, Yang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, who had just returned to Flat Land County, suddenly sensed rolling demonic aura rising in the distance. A frown crept up on their face. Shen Ruyan said, "That place seems to be under the jurisdiction of the Shen family." "That's right. If I remember correctly, that place should be a mortal city called White River City," Yang Chengshuan said in a low voice. As they spoke, the couple did not stop at all. Their figures instantly turned into 2 streams of light, and in the blink of an eye, they arrived in the sky above White River City. However, when they saw the scene in White River City, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's hearts turned cold. The entire White River City had become a living hell. The 1.8 million people in the city all turned into white skeletons under the hands of those demonic cultivators. At the sight of this miserable scene, an uncontrollable killing intent surged up in them. "Rest in peace, one will avenge you." Just as this thought flashed through their minds, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan sensed the abnormality below. "What is that?" Their eyes penetrated the layers of array formations and landed on Shen Beifei, Xianxia, and the others in the array formation. "Its third uncle and elder Xing." Yang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan were immediately on guard. Without hesitation, the two of them attacked at the same time. In an instant, terrifying strength and Dharma power surged out. In the array, the 5 demonic cultivators, who were trying to attack Shen Beifei and Xianxia together, suddenly felt 2 extremely terrifying auras closing in on them from above. This gave them a bad feeling. However, before they could react, they heard a loud bang. With a violent shake, the demonic array formation that they had set up previously was instantly shattered. The ground caved in. The terrifying shockwave stirred up the ruins in the entire White River City. The enchanting woman, the short and fat man, and the skinny old man immediately rode their respective Dharma artifacts and soared into the sky. They looked at Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, who had appeared out of nowhere in shock, and said in an incredulous tone, "Just now did you?" "HMPH." Before the enchanting woman and the others could finish their words, Shen Ruyan snorted. In the next moment, lightning suddenly appeared on her fingertips. There was a rumble. A black-robed man beside the enchanting woman instantly turned into ashes. The remaining 4 people were taken aback by this terrifying power. After coming back to his senses, the skinny old man exclaimed, "Violet Palace Realm, she's a Violet Palace Realm cultivator." These words immediately scared the wits out of his fellow demonic cultivators. No one knew better than them how terrifying a Violet Palace Realm cultivator was. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if their number doubled, it would not be enough to kill a Violet Palace Realm cultivator. The difference between two realms was simply too great. It was so great that it was not something that could be made up for by numbers. Run! Without any hesitation, the remaining four chose to run. As they ran, they shouted, "Senior Guling, save us, save us!" The scene stunned Shen Beifei and Xianxia. They did not expect such a sudden turn of events. Especially when they sensed the vast Dharma power on Shen Ruyan's body, their eyes widened even more. Ruyan has really reached the Violet Palace realm. At this moment, the two of them were wild with excitement. However, the four demonic cultivators who were still escaping were terrified. They didn't dare to imagine what would happen if Shen Ruyan caught up to them. Whoosh! At this moment, a spear that emitted a terrifying aura tore through the void and appeared behind a bearded man. It was the level 3 Dharma treasure, the 7 Evil Treasure Spear. The 7 Evil Treasure Spear pierced through his back without any obstruction. The dazzling spear light burst out and shattered him in midair. Arg! The remaining 3 demonic cultivators heard a scream. This made them even more terrified, and they began to escape with all their might. However, how could it be so easy to escape from a Violet Palace Realm cultivator? In the blink of an eye, the 7 Evil Treasure Spear appeared above the short fat man's head. The tip of the spear fell. The protective true essence on the short and fat man's body and his protective Dharma artifact were like bubbles that broke with a poke. Puff! The tip of the 7 Evil Treasure Spear pierced through the short and fat man's head and nailed him to the ground. Facing someone who killed Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators like ants, the enchanting woman and the skinny old man broke down. The two of them immediately shouted in a certain direction. "Senior Guling, help! 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 HMPH!" Finally, a cold snort came from the sky. Immediately after, an old man in a purple robe sitting on the white bone lotus platform who was surrounded by endless Dharma power appeared in front of everyone. This was the person behind these demonic cultivators. A demonic cultivator who had reached the 3rd level of the Violet Palace realm. His name was Daoist Guling. At this moment, he looked at Shen Ruyan and said coldly, "I really didn't expect another Violet Palace realm cultivator of the Shen immortal family to pop up. However, if I'm not wrong, you are currently only at the 1st level of the Violet Palace realm. You should have just broken through not long ago." Hearing Daoist Guling's words, Shen Beifei and Xianxua's expressions immediately changed. Not good. As a new advanced Violet Palace realm cultivator, Ruyan was probably not Guling's match. At the thought of this, the two of them could not help but feel anxious. Now that their Shen immortal family had finally produced another Violet Palace realm cultivator, what if she died here? Just as this thought flashed across their mind, they saw a sinister smile suddenly appear on Guling's face. "I have to say you came just in time. If I can devour your blood essence, it should be able to increase my cultivation by another level. Originally, I wanted to lure your ancestor out. However, from the looks of it, you, who has just broken through to the Violet Palace realm, should be more suitable for me." "Is that so?" A cold smile also appeared on Shen Ruyan's face. "Then let me take a good look at what ability you have to dare have designs on my Shen family." As soon as she finished speaking, the 7 Evil Treasure Spear suddenly turned into colorful rays of light. With a resounding howl, it tore through the layers of protective Dharma power surrounding Gu Ling and arrived in front of his face. "What?" Gu Ling's pupils constricted. In the next moment, he suddenly slapped the white bone lotus platform below him. Buzz! In an instant, distorted black light rose from the white bone lotus platform and blocked the attack of the 7 Evil Treasure Spear. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He didn't expect this woman's attack to be so fierce. He was so close to getting hit by the spear. At the same time, Shen Ruyan had an accurate understanding of Daoist Gu Ling's strength. Although this person was at the 3rd level of the Violet Palace realm, his actual strength was actually a level lower than Yao Jiangshan, who they met that day. At most, he was on par with Chu Bakying. In comparison, the white bone lotus platform Dharma treasure under him was slightly troublesome. If she wanted to break it, she might have to use her intrinsic Dharma treasure. At this moment, Taoist Gu Ling took out a flying sword that was completely made of cultivators' skulls. The flying sword carried an extremely dense evil and murderous aura. Ordinary cultivators would probably go crazy and lose their minds if they approached it, let alone come into contact with it. However, this kind of thing had no effect on Shen Ruyan, who had the 5 lightning Dao body. With a flick of her hand, crackle, in an instant, streaks of lightning flashed. The lightning gathered around the 7 evil treasure spear and turned it into an extremely dazzling lightning spear. Rumble! The spear carried countless lightning bolts and collided fiercely with the white bone flying sword that Gu Ling had summoned. Immediately, the white bone flying sword let out a wail. The evil and murderous auras wrapped around it disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye, like snow meeting the sun. My treasure! Gu Ling cried out in pain. 3. He did not expect Shen Ruyan to know such a powerful lightning technique. As everyone knew, lightning had always been the nemesis of demonic cultivators. Now that his bone Dharma treasure was almost scrapped, he immediately lost more than half of his strength. You deserve to die. Gu Ling's face was twisted with anger. He reached out and grabbed the air. Buzz! A flag made of human bones appeared in his hand. It was another Dharma treasure of his, the blood sacrifice flag. This flag was made of the skulls of thousands of Qi refinement and Foundation establishment realm cultivators. It was made of the blood of countless living people. It could be said to be one of the most rare demonic treasures. There was also a white bone demon sealed inside. Its strength was comparable to a first-level Violet Palace realm cultivator. At this moment, Gu Ling took out the flag. Without any hesitation, he immediately released the white bone demon. As soon as the white bone demon flew out of the flag, its ghostly green eyes immediately locked onto Shen Ruyan. Roar! A pitch-black light suddenly shot out of its mouth. Like a laser, it flew towards Shen Ruyan. One could clearly see countless vengeful spirits wailing in the pitch-black light. Their miserable cries resounded through the sky, causing Shen Beifei, Xianxia, the skinny old man, and the enchanting woman to cover their ears and reveal a painful expression. Only Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were unaffected. There was a bang. The pitch-black light hit Shen Ruyan directly. A black mushroom cloud suddenly rose in the air. Shen Beifei and Xianxia were so worried that they wanted to rush into the mushroom cloud to save Shen Ruyan. However, before they could make a move, they saw Shen Ruyan slowly walk out of the black mushroom cloud. Above her head, there was a huge umbrella surrounded by countless smoke and clouds. Defensive Dharma treasure. Gu Ling's pupils constricted. It was at this moment that Shen Ruyan's 7 evil treasure spear, wrapped in layers of lightning, attacked Gu Ling again. At the same time, her heavenly light umbrella blocked the white bone demon. Layers of clouds emitted by the umbrella slowly coiled around the white bone demon, making it impossible to move. Damn it! Sensing the power of lightning coming from the 7 evil treasure spear again, Gu Ling's expression turned very ugly. As demonic cultivators, they were naturally afraid of attacks like lightning and the sun. In addition, Shen Ruyan had the 5 lightning Dao body, which increased the power of her lightning spells and techniques. Fortunately, the white bone lotus platform under him had extraordinary defense ability. Otherwise, he might really be injured by Shen Ruyan this time. Just as Gu Ling was wondering if he should retreat, 5 colored brilliants appeared behind Shen Ruyan, who was holding the spear. Then the 5 colored brilliants suddenly turned into 5 colored lightning. Rumble! A flying sword with 5 colored lightning swished out. Before Gu Ling could react, it slashed straight at his white bone lotus platform. There was a crack. The white bone lotus platform, which was undamaged by the spear attack and showed no signs of breaking, made a clear cracking sound. This immediately made Gu Ling, who was sitting on it, shudder. Then he was scared out of his wits. Intrinsic lightning element Dharma treasure. Boom! At this moment, the seemingly indestructible white bone lotus platform was actually slashed into 2 by Shen Ruyan's 5 lightning immortal slayer. Gu Ling, who was on it, was severely injured. Shocked, he spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, he couldn't care less. An extremely dense blood mist suddenly rose around him. He actually wanted to use the blood-burning technique to escape. However, how could Shen Ruyan let him do as he wished? Streaks of lightning suddenly gathered from all directions. It was as if the sky was breaking. Under the lead of the 5 lightning immortal slayer, terrifying lightning struck Taoist Gu Ling, who was trying to escape, one after another. Rumble! When the first lightning struck, the blood mist around Gu Ling was already starting to weaken. By the time the second lightning descended, the blood mist around Gu Ling had already dissipated. How is that possible? Gu Ling shouted in horror. At this moment, the third bolt of lightning finally landed with a rumble and hit Taoist Gu Ling. It instantly shattered his protective Dharma power and turned him into charcoal. Such a shocking scene stunned everyone except Jiang Chengxuan, especially the enchanting woman and the skinny old man. They were terror-stricken. Who would have thought that as a third-level Violet Palace Realm demonic cultivator, he would actually die in the hands of Shen Ruyan, who was only at the first level. The two of them did not dare to stay at all. Taking advantage of the fact that Shen Ruyan still had to deal with the white bone demon, they immediately turned into two streaks of light and wanted to escape into the distance. Where are you going in such a hurry? However, right at that moment, a figure suddenly blocked their path. Jiang Chengxuan smiled faintly and looked at the two people in front of him. Are you going to abandon your companions? Get lost. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan blocking the way, a murderous glint flashed across the eyes of the enchanting woman and the skinny old man. The two of them did not hesitate at all. The enchanting woman released a dark black hairpin. There were actually all kinds of poisonous insects and evil spirits circling around it. It was sinister. As for the skinny old man, he threw out a drum made of human skin. Dong dong dong. Every time the drum struck, countless wraiths would fly out and creep up on Jiang Chengxuan. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan snorted. He raised his hand and grabbed it. He reached out and grabbed the black hairpin that was wrapped in countless poisonous insects and ghosts with his bare hands. Then fire suddenly rose from his palm. Accompanied by screams of the ghosts, the black hairpin Dharma artifact was burned into nothingness. Then he punched out. Boom! The entire void seemed to tremble at this moment. That punch created a hole on the human skin drum. Even the skinny old man behind it was shattered into pieces by the punch. Arg! Seeing this, the enchanting woman let out an ear-piercing scream. At the same time, a breeze brushed past her slender neck. Then the beautiful head of the enchanting woman fell silently. From then on, all the demonic cultivators who caused trouble here died. After Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan put away the storage bags of Gu Ling and the others, Shen Beifei and Xing Wandao rushed over. The two of them were still in disbelief. They did not expect that a Violet Palace Realm demonic cultivator and 5 demonic cultivators above the mid-stage Foundation Establishment Realm would actually die in the hands of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan just like that. Ruyan, Chengxuan, your current cultivation. Shen Beifei couldn't help but ask, even though he already knew that she had broken through to the Violet Palace Realm. However, at this moment, he still wanted to hear the answer for himself. And Jiang Chengxuan, facing 2 late-stage Foundation Establishment Realm demonic cultivators, not only did Jiang Chengxuan easily deal with them, but he also broke the other party's Dharma artifact barehanded. This strength was clearly not supposed to come out of a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. Yes. At this moment, Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at Shen Beifei. That's right, my cultivation is currently at the Violet Palace Realm. Hearing the answer from Shen Ruyan, Shen Beifei and Xing Wandao both smiled with a look of joy on their faces. Shen Beifei was so excited that he nodded repeatedly and said, Good, good, good. Our Shen family finally has another Violet Palace Realm cultivator. As he spoke, he and Xing Wandao turned their gazes to Jiang Chengxuan expectantly. However, Jiang Chengxuan smiled and shook his head at them. Third uncle, brother Xing, don't look at me like that. One haven't broken through to the Violet Palace Realm. Shen Beifei and Xing Wandao looked a little embarrassed. Indeed. How could it be so easy to break through to the Violet Palace Realm? In decades, the Shen family only managed to see a new Violet Palace Realm cultivator like Shen Ruyan. However, they weren't to blame. What Jiang Chengxuan had displayed just now had indeed exceeded the strength of an ordinary Foundation Establishment cultivator. It was no wonder that they had that thought. All right, third uncle, let's go back first. Shen Ruyan said with a smile. By the way, tell us about the Shen family's situation in the past few years and the current situation. Hearing Shen Ruyan mention this, the joy on Shen Beifei and Xiang Wandao's faces faded a little. They nodded at her and returned to the splendid Jade Mountain together. After a while, the four of them returned to the splendid Jade Mountain. During this period, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan also learned about the Shen family situation. To be honest, the Shen family had not been doing well in the past few years. While Shen Mengsu was still around, everything was still within acceptable range. When the news of Shen Mengsu's death spread, the Shen family situation took a turn for the worse. Not only were they ostracized and neglected by many sects and families, but even the Zhang family took advantage of the situation to kick them when they were down. This was also what Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not expect the most. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan wouldn't be surprised if some families and sects that were close to the Hong family would target the Shen family and join forces to ostracize them. In fact, it was within their expectations. However, the fact that a family like the Zhang family was also involved in this made them feel disappointed. After all, this was a family that had fought side by side with the Shen family for hundreds of years. But in the end, at this moment, in the reception hall of the Shen family, a smart-looking man in luxurious clothes was looking at Shen Rushwang with a smile. Behind this person were several cultivators wearing the clothes of the Zhang immortal family. They spoke one after another. Elder Rushwang, our elder Yazu is already very sincere. Think about the current situation of the white jade market. If the situation continues, not to mention profits, even maintaining the daily operations of the market will be a huge problem, right? So you're here to fish in troubled waters, to kick us when we are down. Shen Rushwang said coldly. Hearing her words, the man in luxurious clothes, who was called Elder Yazu by the Zhang family cultivators, immediately smiled and shook his head. Elder Rushwang, you can't put it that way. Instead of leaving the market empty, you might as well cooperate with our Zhang family. That way it will be beneficial both to your Shen family and our Zhang family. It's killing two birds with one stone. Why not? Cooperate. Shen Rushwang could not help but sneer. Cooperate by giving you 50% of the Shen family's share in the white jade market. Does your ancestor Beiyang know about this? Hearing Shen Rushwang suddenly mention their ancestor, Zhang Beiyang, the expressions of the Zhang family cultivators present changed. Zhang Yazu's expression darkened. Elder Rushwang, you don't have to worry about this. Without the approval of our ancestor, we wouldn't be doing this. You should think about my suggestion carefully. Otherwise, the Shen family can forget about having the other 50% share. What 50% share? Tell me about it. At this moment, a few people suddenly walked in from outside the reception hall. They were Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Shen Beifei, and Xiang Wandao, who had just returned to the splendid Jade Mountain. Ruyan Chengxuan, you're back. When she saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, a look of surprise appeared on Shen Rushwang's face. Yes, cousin Rushwang, long time no see. The couple smiled and nodded at Shen Rushwang. Then the two of them looked at Zhang Yazu and the others. Shen Ruyan said indifferently, you're Zhang Yazu of the Zhang family, right? I know you. Relying on the power of your Zhang family, you have done plenty of nasty things. Why are you targeting my Shen family today? As she spoke, she ignored Zhang Yazu and turned around to look at Shen Rushwang. Cousin Rushwang, why don't you tell me in detail what happened? Without any hesitation, Shen Rushwang told Shen Ruyan what had happened in the past few years. After Shen Ruyan heard that, her beautiful eyes immediately narrowed. She looked at Zhang Yazu and said coldly, is this the cooperation you are talking about? Previously, you wanted to use 50,000 spirit stones to buy the white jade market, but it didn't work out. Now, you wanted to use the Zhang family's name to take away 50% of the Shen family's share in the white jade market. What makes you think your Zhang family is big enough to take away such a big piece of meat from my Shen family? Shen Ruyan was not polite at all. Zhang Yazu and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. However, before Zhang Yazu and the others could retort, Shen Ruyan shouted coldly, all of you get lost. 111. Personally look for your ancestor to talk about this matter. You? How dare you? Zhang Yazu and the others' expressions became fierce. As soon as they said that, they felt an extremely terrifying power burst out of Shen Ruyan's body and pressed them to the ground. This aura is. Zhang Yazu and the others immediately looked terrified. This was because they could already sense that the aura burst out of Shen Ruyan was not the aura of a Foundation establishment cultivator at all. Instead, it was the unique might of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. How come? When did the Shen family have another Violet Palace realm cultivator? Zhang Yazu and the others had an extremely bad feeling. At this moment, Shen Ruyan waved her hand. Buzz! In an instant, an incomparably terrifying Dharma power surged out. Zhang Yazu and the others could not resist at all and were sent flying. They were thrown straight out of splendid Jade Mountain. In the end, they fell to the ground one on top of another. However, at this moment, they did not dare to complain. A few of them looked at each other and immediately flew back in the direction of the Zhang immortal family. At the same time, Shen Rushwang looked at Zhang Yazu and the others who were sent flying by Shen Ruyan. Shock was written all over her face. She looked at Shen Ruyan in disbelief and said hesitantly, "Cousin Ruyan, your cultivation." "Yes." Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at Shen Rushwang. "I was lucky enough to break through to the Violet Palace realm not long ago." "Ray, really?" Shen Rushwang shuddered when she heard that. Then her face was filled with excitement. "Cousin Ruyan, great, this is really great." Shen Beifei said, "Ruyan, what you did just now will unavoidably offend the Zhang family and cause us to fall out. Is it appropriate?" Shen Ruyan sneered. "Third uncle, at this point, nothing we do will be inappropriate. The Zhang family has already chosen to fall out with us in the first place. Regardless of whether the two ancestors of their family know about this, since they have done it, they have to be held accountable. No matter what, I have to go to the Zhang family to ask for an explanation. But not now. The most important thing now is to extend Ancestor Yuanlong's lifespan." "Extend his lifespan?" Upon hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Shen Beifei, Shen Rushwang, and Xing Wanda were stunned. Then Shen Beifei and the other two seemed to have thought of something. An excited expression appeared on their faces. "Ruyan, are you saying that you've obtained a spiritual item that can extend the lifespan of Ancestor Yuanlong?" "Yes." Shen Ruyan did not hide it from the three of them. She smiled and nodded. "My husband and one happened to run into a friend who wanted to sell a life-extending spiritual item at a trade fair, so we bought it." "I see." Shen Beifei and the other two nodded. However, they also knew how great the price was to buy such a spiritual item that could extend the lifespan of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. Although Shen Ruyan didn't mention the price, it didn't mean that they didn't know. "All right, if there's nothing else, my husband and one will go to the ancestor first." Shen Ruyan smiled and said to the three of them. Then, she did not delay any longer and headed towards Huowu Peak with Jiang Chengxuan. At Huowu Peak, ever since Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan bade farewell to Shen Yuanlong had been in seluction. He did this for no other reason than to live a little longer and protect the Shen immortal family. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived at Shen Yuanlong's cave abode. The couple looked at each other. Then Shen Ruyan stepped forward and knocked on the door of the cave abode. After a while, the door of the cave abode where Shen Yuanlong was cultivating slowly opened. Then Shen Yuanlong, whose hair had completely turned white and whose figure was rather hunched, slowly walked out of the cave abode. When he saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan standing outside, he was stunned for a moment before he smiled. "Chengxuan, Ruyan, you're back. It's good that you're back." At this moment, Shen Yuanlong didn't like a Violet Palace realm cultivator who was in charge of a huge immortal family. At this moment, he was more like an old man who was filled with joy when he saw his juniors return. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt a lump in their throats. At this moment, they could feel Shen Yuanlong's heartfelt concern for them. "It's good that you are back," was worth more than 1,000 words. Suddenly, Shen Yuanlong seemed to have sensed something. He couldn't help but look at Shen Ruyan and said uncertainly, "Ruyan, the aura on you, did you already?" "Yes, ancestor. I've already successfully advanced to the Violet Palace realm." Shen Ruyan nodded with a smile. "Violet Palace realm." Hearing this, Shen Yuanlong couldn't help but be slightly shocked. Then, he couldn't hide his excitement. Good. One didn't expect you to have such achievements on this trip. In that case, the Shen family finally has a successor." As he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan. There was light in his turbid eyes as he asked Jiang Chengxuan, Chengxuan, I see that your essence, qi, and spirit are becoming one. Could it be that you're also? Yes. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. He did not hide it from Shen Yuanlong and replied affirmatively. That's right, ancestor, I'm only a step away from the Violet Palace realm now. If there are no accidents, I should be able to advance to the Violet Palace realm while I'm staying on the splendid Jade Mountain. After getting an affirmative answer from Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Yuanlong could no longer suppress the joy in his heart and immediately laughed. Good, good, good. It seemed like I was right about the two of you back then. You and Ruyan really have the potential to become immortals. This is both your fortune and the Shen family's fortune. One hope that you continue on the path of immortality hand in hand. This way I can leave in peace. Hearing this, Shen Ruyan smiled and shook her head. Ancestor, to be honest, my husband and I have obtained many things on this trip. This is one of the things we obtained. Take it as a gift from us. As soon as she finished speaking, a fragrant fruit appeared in Shen Ruyan's hand. Seeing this fruit, Shen Yuanlong narrowed his eyes and could not help but exclaim. This is moon-gazing fruit. Ancestor, you are right. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, this fruit is indeed the moon-gazing fruit. It can help you increase your lifespan by 50 years. So, don't say anything like leaving us in the future. If the opportunity comes, you might even be able to enter the golden core realm. Even though he knew that these words were meant to make him happy, coupled with the moon-gazing fruit, even Shen Yuanlong, who was more than 300 years old, could not help but feel excited. At this moment, he did not refuse it because doing so would only make him too pretentious. As cultivators, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, who didn't want to continue on this path to immortality? Moreover, he knew Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan very well. Since they had given this fruit to him, they wouldn't take it back. There was no need for him to stand on ceremony. At that moment, Shen Yuanlong took the fruit and returned to his cave abode. After a while, a powerful aura came from Shen Yuanlong's cave abode. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were outside, couldn't help but look at each other. Then, they turned to look at the door of the cave abode. There was a click. Shen Yuanlong, who had regained some of his youth, appeared in front of them. At the same time, they felt an even stronger aura from Shen Yuanlong than before. This realization made the couple pleasantly surprised. Then, they smiled and cupped their fists at Shen Yuanlong. Congratulations, ancestor, on breaking through to another level. There's hope for you to reach the golden core realm in the future. Helasa. Hearing the couple's words, Shen Yuanlong laughed happily. Then he shook his head and said, there's no need to flatter me. I know my own situation very well. Not to mention the golden core realm, even the late-stage Violet Palace realm is a huge obstacle for me. The reason why I can break through now is firstly because of the moon-gazing fruit you gave me. Secondly, I've already been at the 4th level of the Violet Palace realm for a long time. With the help of the fruit, I was able to overcome the bottleneck. At this point, a trace of sadness suddenly appeared on Shen Yuanlong's face. He continued, unfortunately, your ancestor Mengsu revealed too much of the heavenly secrets. No matter how good the life-extending spiritual item there was, it would be useless to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gone so abruptly. It's the punishment from the heavens. When they suddenly heard Shen Yuanlong mention this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but be surprised. Didn't the others say that the ancestor still didn't know that ancestor Mengsu had passed away? As if knowing what they were thinking, Shen Yuanlong could not help but smile bitterly. Your ancestor Mengsu and I are siblings from the same mother. How can I not know that she left us? One pretended not to know because I didn't want them to worry. At this point, Shen Yuanlong suddenly thought of something and looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Chengxuan Ruyan, when you met her back then, did she give you the method to cultivate the calculation technique? Before the couple could answer, Shen Yuanlong continued. I know that this technique is mysterious and profound, but as far as I know, its content is actually not complete. I believe when my sister handed it to you back then, she only wanted you to understand the existence of such a technique. She didn't ask you to try cultivating it, right? I'm saying this to remind you that with your ancestor Mengsu as an example, no matter what, don't cultivate that technique. Otherwise, once you suffer from the punishment meted out by the heavens, your path to seek the Tao will be cut off. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded subconsciously. Don't worry, ancestor. If there's no need, we won't cultivate that technique. That's good. Shen Yunlong nodded slightly. By the way, at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly thought of something. Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out a token and a ring from his body and handed them to Shen Yunlong. Ancestor, this is what Ancestor Mingsu asked us to pass to the family the last time we met her. A token that can make one of the Shen family disciples a core disciple of the Genyang sect, as well as a storage ring that contained some of her accumulation over the years. We took some of the 5-element spiritual items and left the rest to the family. After taking the 2 items from Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Yuanlong's face was filled with emotion. He gently rubbed the 2 items with his hand as his mind drifted into the memory of the past. After a while, he looked at the 2 of them again and smiled. Chengxuan Ruyan, thank you. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were about to reply when an extremely majestic aura suddenly rose from the mountain peak where Shen Dayaming was in seclusion. That is, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately looked in that direction, pleasantly surprised. It's brother. At this moment, Shen Yunlong nodded and smiled. That's right, it's Dayaming. If I'm not wrong, he should have successfully broken through to the Violet Palace realm. Let's go and take a look. As they spoke, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Yunlong immediately left Huowu Peak and headed for Mingquan Peak, where Shen Dayaming was cultivating. On Mingquan Peak, at this moment, the aura in a seclusion cave abode was getting stronger and stronger. The aura that didn't belong to the Foundation establishment realm was surging. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Yuanlong appeared outside Shen Dayaming's cave abode. They sensed the thick aura that was filling the air, and were immediately certain that Shen Dayaming had indeed successfully broken through to the Violet Palace realm. At the moment, he should be stabilizing his new realm. Let's guard him here. Shen Yunlong smiled and said. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan naturally had no objections. They immediately sat down cross-legged. After a while, Shen Beifei, Shen Rushuang, and Xing Wanda also arrived at Mingquan Peak. When they saw Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Yuanlong, they were first stunned. Then they looked at Shen Yuanlong in unison with shock and excitement on their faces. Ancestor Yu. Shen Yuanlong smiled and nodded at them. I'm out of danger for the time being. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to Chengxuan and Ruyan. If not for them, I probably wouldn't be standing here now. Really? Ancestor, are you really out of danger? That's really great. Upon hearing Shen Yuanlong's words, Shen Beifei, Shen Rushuang, and Xing Wanda were overcome with excitement. Not long after they learned that Shen Ruyan had entered the Violet Palace realm, their family head, Shen Dayaming, was also about to enter the Violet Palace realm. With all these happy events added together, Shen Beifei and the others were so happy that they were out of words. Buzz. It was at this moment that the door of Shen Dayaming's cave abode opened. Subsequently, Shen Dayaming, who was dressed in a long black robe, appeared in front of everyone. Brother, congratulations on entering the Violet Palace realm. There's hope for you to become an immortal in the future. Shen Ruyan was the first to congratulate Shen Dayaming with a smile. Seeing this, the others immediately followed suit. Shen Dayaming smiled and nodded at everyone in return. After a while, his gaze fell on Shen Ruyan and Shen Yuanlong, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Ruyan, you've also broken through to the Violet Palace realm. Also, Ancestor, have you recovered from your injuries? As he spoke, his gaze shifted to Jiang Chengxuan. Chengxuan, are you ready to attempt to break through? What? Upon hearing Shen Dayaming's words, Shen Beifei, Shen Rushuang, and Xing Wanda all turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. They only knew that Jiang Chengxuan had become very powerful now, but they really couldn't tell how far his cultivation had reached. Now that Shen Dayaming pointed it out, the 3 of them were immediately shocked and overjoyed. If what Shen Dayaming said was true, wouldn't their Shen family soon have 4 Violet Palace realm cultivators? At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the Shen family returned to its peak. At the thought of this, Shen Beifei and the others were excited again. Looks like I was right. At this moment, Shen Dayaming turned to look at Shen Beifei and the others. Now, tell me what has happened to the family all these years while I was in seclusion. Hearing this, the smile on Shen Beifei and the others' faces froze. They fell silent and didn't know how to put it. Shen Daoming immediately sensed that something was wrong and frowned. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Brother, let me tell you." At this moment, Shen Ruyan looked at Shen Daoming and took the initiative to say, "Over the years, many things have indeed happened to our family." Then, Shen Ruyan told Shen Daoming about some of the problems that the Shen family had encountered over the years, especially the matter with the Zhang family, about which even Shen Yuanlong did not know. As they listened, both Shen Yuanlong and Shen Daoming's expressions turned ugly. However, what made Shen Daoming's heart ache the most was Shen Mengsu's departure. As the head of the Shen immortal family, no one knew better than him what Shen Mengsu meant to the entire Shen immortal family. Even though as an elder of the Ganyang sect, strictly speaking, she was no longer a true member of the Shen family. It was undeniable that the Shen family had benefited from and were protected by her a lot. She had provided the Shen immortal family with a lot of convenience, both openly and secretly. Previously, the Shen immortal family was faced with external threats one after another and couldn't even protect themselves. Naturally, they could not consider going to the Ganyang sect to mourn Shen Mengsu. But now, he and Shen Ruyan had both successfully advanced to the Violet Palace realm. In addition, ancestor Shen Yuanlong had already recovered from his injuries, and his foundation was further strengthened. If the Shen family still did not send people to pay tribute, it would really be unreasonable. In comparison, they could put the matter with the Zhang family aside for the time being and wait until they came back from the Ganyang sect. At the thought of this, Shen Daoming immediately voiced his thoughts. Yang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others nodded in agreement. Shen Yuanlong nodded slightly. "Daoming is right. For the time being, our family is safe. It's indeed time to consider going to the Ganyang sect to pay tribute to your ancestor Mengsu." After a pause, Shen Yuanlong continued. "How about this? Daoming, Chengxuan, and Ruyan, the three of you go to the Ganyang sect on behalf of the entire Shen family. I hereby announce that Daoming will continue to be the head of the Shen immortal family for the time being. It will not be too late for you to step down from your position when you find a suitable successor in the future. As for Chengxuan and Ruyan, from now on, you will be the supreme elders of the Shen immortal family. That way, you going to the Ganyang sect is enough to show the sincerity of the Shen immortal family." Generally speaking, after the head of the Violet Palace realm immortal family broke through to the Violet Palace realm, he would have to step down from his position and become a supreme elder. This way, he could focus on cultivation and not be disturbed by other worldly matters. However, the situation of the Shen immortal family was different. So far, they had not found a suitable candidate to be the family head. This required time. Therefore, even though Shen Daoming had already advanced to the Violet Palace realm, Shen Yuanlong still let him continue to be the family head. On the other hand, Jiang Chengxuan was obviously an exception. In the history of the Shen immortal family, there was never a ninth-level foundation establishment realm cultivator who was honored with the title of a supreme elder. And this was also because Jiang Chengxuan was not far from that step. In addition, the couple had contributed a lot this time. With all the reasons combined, Shen Yuanlong made an exception to give him the status of a supreme elder. When everyone heard Shen Yuanlong's words, they nodded in agreement. A few days later, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Daoming left the splendid Jade Mountain and headed for the Ganyang sect. With their cultivation, this journey took them less than 10 days. As soon as they arrived at the Ganyang sect, they saw Yun Dongshan waiting for them. As both sides had already communicated beforehand, Yun Dongshan was not too surprised when he saw Jiang Chengxuan and the other two. On the other hand, Shen Daoming felt a little emotional. Back then when they first met Yun Dongshan, they were his juniors. Now that almost 30 years had passed, he and Shen Ruyan could already be considered his peers. As for Jiang Chengxuan, when Yun Dongshan saw him, he didn't put on any airs as a senior. Instead, he also treated him as a peer. It was precisely because Yun Dongshan could already tell that the current Jiang Chengxuan was only a step away from the Violet Palace realm. Most importantly, he also sensed an extraordinary aura from Jiang Chengxuan. This aura gave him a feeling that it was enough for Jiang Chengxuan to pose a fatal threat to early-stage Violet Palace realm cultivators. This was rather impressive. Even he, a late-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator, did not dare to underestimate him at all. At this moment, The two sides had already finished exchanging pleasantries. Yun Dongshan said, "Ever since Elder Mengxuan passed away, my Shifu has locked himself up in his cave abode. Even us personal disciples can't see him. Therefore, if you want to see my Shifu this time, it will probably be quite difficult." Yun Dongshan was just being euphemistic. In fact, his Shifu, Zheng Pelong, did not allow anyone to disturb him at all. It was unrealistic for Jiang Chengxuan and the other two to really be allowed to see him. Fortunately, the purpose of their trip was not to meet Zheng Pelong, but simply to pay tribute to Shen Mengsu. Shen Daoming said, "In that case, we won't disturb Senior Pelong. Next, fellow Taoist Yun, please bring us to pay our tributes to Ancestor Mengsu." "Sure." Yun Dongshan nodded. Soon, he brought Jiang Chengxuan and the others to a mountain behind the Ganyang sect. Then, he pointed at one of the memorial tablets and said, "Everyone, that's where Elder Mengsu passed away. Back then she had a premonition that her life was coming to an end, but she did not die in her cave abode. Instead, she chose this place. If you want to pay tribute to her, you can do it here." Generally speaking, outsiders were not allowed to enter places like the back mountain of the Ganyang sect. When Jiang Chengxuan and the other two heard Yun Dongshan's words, they immediately bowed respectfully to the memorial tablet. Then they followed the corresponding procedure and began to pay their tributes. After a while, after Jiang Chengxuan and the other two finished paying their tributes, they looked at Yun Dongshan and said, "Fellow Taoist Yun, one wonder if we can go to the cave abode where Ancestor Mengsu used to live in." Yun Dongshan had long expected this request from the three of them. When he heard this, he was not surprised. Instead, he nodded readily and said, "Of course, I'll bring you there now." As he spoke, Yun Dongshan took the lead and led Jiang Chengxuan and the others towards Shen Mengsu's cave abode. When they arrived at the cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan and the others realized that their ancestor Mengsu's life seemed to be very simple. The decoration of the entire cave abode could not be simpler. A few potted plants, a few tables and chairs, and a bed and a futon were all there were in her cave abode. At this moment, Yun Dongshan suddenly said, "Elder Mengsu once said that she was already hated by the heavens for seeing the heavenly secrets and revealing them. If she continued to live in luxury despite that, it was very likely that a calamity would befall her. Therefore, the best way was to keep a low profile. That way, she might be able to live for a few more years. Unfortunately, in order to help us win the demon beast riot, she sighed." At this point, Yun Dongshan did not continue and let out a long sigh. It was obvious that Yun Dongshan admired and respected Shen Mengsu from the bottom of his heart. Jiang Chengxuan and the other two were even more emotional. At this moment, they were shrouded in a depressing gloom. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan and the other two finally left the cave abode. Outside, they suddenly bumped into an old man dressed in a sloppy manner. He held a wine gourd in his hand and kept drinking. Even from a distance, Jiang Chengxuan and the others could smell a strong smell of alcohol. However, what surprised them even more was that when Yun Dongshan, who was beside them, saw the sloppy old man, he actually revealed a respectful expression. He walked forward and called out respectfully, "Senior 7 Star." When the sloppy old man he called Senior 7 Star heard this, he nodded slightly. Then, his gaze swept past Yun Dongshan and landed on Jiang Chengxuan and the other two. Yun Dongshan immediately explained, "Senior 7 Star, these three are the descendants of Elder Mengsu. This time they're here to pay tributes." "One." The sloppy old man nodded. He did not say anything and walked past Yun Dongshan and Jiang Chengxuan. However, when he passed by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, he tilted his head to look at them. Then, he took out two small bottles from his body and casually threw the bottles at them. "Since we're fated to meet, I'll give these two bottles to you." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan subconsciously reached out to take it. However, just as they were about to thank him, the sloppy old man who was in front of them just now was nowhere to be seen. Yun Dongshan immediately explained, "Senior 7 Star is the supreme elder of the Starlight sect. He's considered one of Elder Mengsu's good friends. This time, he also came over to pay tribute to Elder Mengsu." The supreme elder of the Starlight sect. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Daoming couldn't help but be slightly shocked when they learned the identity of the sloppy old man. "That's right." Yun Dongshan nodded affirmatively. "Senior 7 Star, is indeed one of the golden core supreme elders of the Starlight sect. At this point, a trace of envy appeared on Yun Dongshan's face. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. I wonder if you can let me see what the 2 bottles he gave you just now are. It was not that Yun Dongshan had any other thoughts about the 2 bottles. He did not have the guts to covet something given by a golden core realm cultivator. It was purely out of curiosity. At the same time, he wanted to help the 2 of them see what the 2 bottles were, lest they threw it away casually. Since Yun Dongshan had good intentions, Shen Ruyan and Jiang Chengxuan would not reject him. Both of them opened the bottles in their hands. Immediately, wisps of dazzling light that were like starlight spewed out of the bottle. Seeing this, Yun Dongshan's eyes widened. It's the Brilliant Star Spiritual Dew. Brilliant Star Spiritual Dew. Shen Daoming was puzzled. Yun Dongshan nodded and said, That's right. This item is exclusive to the Starlight sect. It's a treasure that nourishes and strengthens the soul. It's said that in the Starlight sect, it's quite difficult for some ordinary Violet Palace realm elders to exchange for a bottle. It's that precious. Shen Daoming blurted out in surprise. As everyone knew, any treasure that involved nurturing or strengthening the soul was quite valuable. Most importantly, such treasures were relatively rare. It was absolutely impossible for ordinary cultivators to obtain it without paying a heavy price. However, 7 Star actually gave away 2 bottles of Brilliant Star Spiritual the first time they met. Shen Daoming found it hard to believe. After that, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Daoming did not stay in the Ganyang sect for long. After bidding farewell to Yun Dongshan, they returned to the splendid Jade Mountain in Flatland County. At the same time, Yun Dongshan arrived at the cave abode where his Shifu, Zheng Pelong, was. Zheng Pelong's voice immediately came from inside. They went back. Yun Dongshan replied respectfully, Yes, Shifu, they have already returned. As he spoke, Yun Dongshan took the initiative to tell Zheng Pelong about how he had brought Jiang Chengxuan and the others to pay tributes to Shen Mengsu today. Zheng Pelong did not reply. After a long time, he said slowly, That old fellow 7 Star is finally generous for once today. Forget it, let's leave it at that. When Yun Dongshan heard this, he immediately bowed and left the cave abode. 10 days later, Jiang Chengxuan and the other 2 returned to splendid Jade Mountain. The 3 of them first went to Huwu Peak, where Shen Yuanlong was, and told him about their trip to the Ganyang sect. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan prepared to take their leave and return to their cave abode on the splendid Jade Mountain. However, this reminded Shen Yuanlong, and he hurriedly called out to the 2 of them. Chengxuan Ruyan, wait a moment. Shen Yuanlong continued, Now that the 2 of you are already the supreme elders of the Shen immortal family, the original cave abode is naturally not suitable for you. Why don't you move to Flying Jade Peak next to me? There is the spiritual chi provided by the level 3 spiritual vein. It can also help you cultivate better in the future. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not reject Shen Yuanlong's arrangement. The spiritual chi provided by the level 2 spiritual vein was indeed unable to satisfy their daily cultivation. Especially after this, Jiang Chengxuan was prepared to break through to the Violet Palace realm. The spiritual chi provided by a level 3 spiritual vein could play an important role. The couple thanked Shen Yuanlong and bid farewell. Then, they left Huwu Peak together. As he watched the couple leave, Shen Daoming sighed with emotion. If nothing goes wrong, Chengxuan should be able to break through to the Violet Palace realm. At this point, Shen Daoming seemed to have thought of something. He could not help but look at Shen Yuanlong and ask, Ancestor, has the Zhang family sent people to apologize? At the mention of this matter, Shen Yuanlong, who was originally smiling, immediately looked cold. He shook his head. Until now, the Zhang family hasn't expressed their apology yet. Is that so? A trace of coldness flashed across Shen Daoming's eyes. Do they think that we can just forget about what they did to us? Shen Yuanlong's gaze suddenly became a little deep. He said, I more or less know Brother Beiyang's character. If he had been in charge of the family situation, those things would not have happened. From the looks of it, something must have happened to Brother Beiyang that made him unable to manage the family matters. Or perhaps something unexpected happened to the Zhang family that we don't know about. However, no matter what, the Shen family would not let this matter rest so easily. We'll discuss this further after Chengxuan comes out of seclusion. In addition, you and Ruyan don't have to call me ancestor anymore. Speaking of which, we belong to the same lineage. In the future, you can just call me fifth granduncle. Breakthrough 2. At the same time, flying Jade Peak. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already moved everything from their original cave abode here. It had to be said that the spiritual qi in this new place that Shen Yuanlong had arranged for them was indeed much richer than their original cave abode. At this moment, in the cave abode on flying Jade Peak, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sat opposite each other. In front of them was a bottle of brilliant star spiritual dew. Neither of them spoke at this moment, but a layer of spiritual light suddenly appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. Immediately, black maggots that were twisting and squirming suddenly appeared in the 2 bottles of brilliant star spiritual dew. This made Jiang Chengxuan's expression turn very ugly. He immediately told Shen Ruyan what he had seen and said in a low voice, "Ruyan, you're right. Such a treasure that affects the soul can't be used casually, especially since we can't be completely sure that it's safe." At this point, he warned himself in his heart. On the path of cultivation, he really had to be on guard at all times. Previously, he thought that since the Supreme Elder of Starlight Sect, 7 Star, was a good friend of their ancestor Mengsu, the things he gave should not be dangerous. He didn't even have the slightest doubt about its safety. Of course, this was mainly related to the other party's identity. Who would have thought that as a Golden Core Supreme Elder and a former good friend of their ancestor Mengsu, the things he gave them as a gift would actually be so dangerous in a way that was hardly detectable. If he really consumed the bottle of brilliant star spiritual dew on a blind faith, Jiang Chengxuan really did not dare to imagine the terrifying consequences. When Shen Ruyan heard Jiang Chengxuan's words, she snorted. "That 7 Star is indeed a good chess player. You probably don't know what those black maggots you saw with your heavenly eyes are, right?" Before Jiang Chengxuan could reply, Shen Ruyan continued, "That's a soul-splitting worm. The owner can attach a wisp of his soul to them. If you consume this soul-splitting worm, the owner of the soul-splitting worm can use it to subtly affect your mind and make you become a different person unknowingly. The most terrifying thing is that this worm can be used as a carrier for its master's consciousness. When the owner of the soul-splitting worm wants, he can transfer his consciousness to the worm and find an opportunity to completely replace your mind and possess your body." What the? At this moment, no matter how calm Jiang Chengxuan was, he could not help but curse in his heart. Why would a dignified Golden Core Realm cultivator do such a despicable thing? What kind of hatred did he have towards them to scheme against them like this? If Jiang Chengxuan remembered correctly, this was the first time they had met. Did he have to do that? This was also what he could not understand the most. If there was actually a personal grudge between him and Shen Mengsu, then as Shen Mengsu's Dao companion, Zheng Pelong would definitely not let him enter the Ganyang sect to pay tribute. And Yun Dongshan would definitely not be so respectful to him. The only explanation was that there was something that even Zheng Pelong did not know. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan calmed himself down. He looked at Shen Ruyan again and asked tentatively, "Ruyan, did you just say that the soul-splitting worm can be used as a carrier for its master's consciousness? Could it be that 7 Star is actually?" "That's right." Shen Ruyan nodded with a cold expression. "I smell something rotten from him. It's a sign that a cultivator's lifespan is about to end." If that was the reason, it all made sense. One must never underestimate what crazy things a person would do to extend their lifespan or survive when they were about to reach the end of their life. Especially that person was not an ordinary person, but a Golden Core cultivator, an existence at the top of the cultivation world of the Yun nation. He would do something like scheming against the descendants of his good friend without thinking. As long as it was needed, not to mention good friends and their descendants, some people would even be willing to sacrifice their children and parents in order to go further down the path of cultivation. Jiang Chengxuan knew that this matter was going to be more troublesome than he thought. It was definitely not a wonderful thing to be targeted by a Golden Core Realm cultivator. Fortunately, the other party was not from the Ganyang sect. He could not stay in the Ganyang sect for long. As long as he and Shen Ruyan didn't step into the Starlight sect's territory, they should be fine for the time being. As for whether or not they should tell this to Zheng Pelong, Jiang Chengxuan did not even think about it. At least for the time being, he wouldn't even consider this. Putting aside his status, even if he could see Zhang Pelong now, would Zhang Pelong believe what he said? Even if Zhang Pelong did believe him, so what? Would Zhang Pelong take the risk to fight a golden core realm cultivator who was about to reach the end of his life for him? That was simply unrealistic. In other words, a mere foundation establishment realm cultivator was nothing compared to an old golden core realm cultivator. Perhaps some people even hoped that 7-star could successfully possess Jiang Chengxuan's body. After all, he was a golden core realm cultivator, and one of the pillars that could support them in the fight against demon beasts. It was a good deal to exchange the life of a foundation establishment cultivator for the rebirth of a golden core cultivator. So, in this matter, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already decided that before their strength reached a certain level, they would not easily tell anyone except Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming. After that, the couple did not touch the 2 bottles of Brilliant Star Spiritual Dew again. Instead, they temporarily sealed them. After doing this, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated and walked straight into his cultivation room. He began to enter seclusion and attempt to break through to the Violet Palace realm. Comprehending a divine power. To break through to the Violet Palace realm from the Foundation Establishment realm, one had to go through 3 major stages. True Essence, Physical Body and Soul. True Essence stage, as the name suggested, was to transform True Essence into dharmic powers unique to Violet Palace realm cultivators. This was the first stage to break through to the Violet Palace realm. It was also a relatively easy and safe stage. Generally speaking, almost half of the cultivators who reached the perfected Foundation Establishment realm and began to attempt to break through to the Violet Palace realm could successfully transform their true essence into dharmic powers. The difficult and dangerous stages were the physical body and soul. If one did not have a strong enough physical body, he would not be able to withstand the sudden change from true essence to dharma powers. In that case, his meridians would break and his dantian would shatter. In the worst scenario, his body would collapse on the spot and he would explode. With a purple violet pill or violet palace, Jade to protect your meridians and dantian, you could survive even if you failed at the physical body stage. In the future, when the time was right, you might be able to attempt another breakthrough. As for the final stage, it was also called the illusion realm stage. After a cultivator passed the first 2 stages, their soul would enter the Nuan Palace. At this moment, all kinds of illusions would appear in the depths of cultivators' hearts. They would experience happiness, anger, excitement, sadness, regret, and desire. If the cultivator could stay focused and see through the illusions, his soul would transform, and he would truly enter the Violet Palace realm. If he couldn't see through the illusions and didn't have a spiritual object to protect him, he would fall into the Oblivion realm and be unable to extricate himself. In the worst case, his soul would be severely injured and he would never have a chance to break through. Jiang Chengxuan was in the cultivation room of his cave abode. He had already adjusted his condition to the peak. Essence Qi and spirit fused into one. To be honest, even if he did not use the breakthrough bead rewarded by the system back then, he was more than 90% confident that he could successfully enter the Violet Palace realm. However, Jiang Chengxuan still planned to use the breakthrough bead. Not for anything else, but for the comprehension that would come with it. When the system rewarded him back then, it had already made it clear. If he used the breakthrough bead to break through a major realm, not only would he be able to break through smoothly, but he would also have a chance to comprehend something from it. This was a rather impressive matter, and it was also one of the most precious aspects of the realm breakthrough bead. Of course, Jiang Chengxuan could perfectly wait to use the breakthrough bead when he was attempting to break through to the golden core realm or even the nascent soul realm. That way, he could also maximize its value. But the problem was, when would he be able to break through to the golden core realm or the nascent soul realm? 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, or 500 years. At that time, who could say for sure if he would still be alive? If he was not lucky enough and died halfway, wouldn't such a treasure be wasted for nothing? Moreover, there was only 60 to 70 years before the second demon beast riot. Could Jiang Chengxuan guarantee that he would definitely be able to survive it? Therefore, hundreds of years were too far away for him. Time was most precious for cultivators like him. He had to try his best to use everything he could use to increase his strength. Only when his strength increased to a certain level would he be qualified to talk and consider the future. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. A bead that was emitting a faint light appeared in his hand. It was the breakthrough bead that the system had rewarded him with. Crack! As Jiang Chengxuan clenched his fist, the breakthrough bead in his hand shattered. What followed was a strange energy that flowed into his body through his palm like a spring. Jiang Chengxuan felt that his true essence, physical body, and soul had already reached an absolutely perfect harmony. At this moment, the best opportunity to break through had presented itself in front of him. Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. The five elements' true technique in his body circulated in full swing, and he began to advance to the violet palace realm. With the help of the strange energy from the breakthrough bead, that was like a clear spring. In just a moment, Jiang Chengxuan successfully turned all the true essence in his body into dharmic powers. Then he guided this power to flow through his meridians. Jiang Chengxuan was confident that, even without the help of the strange energy, he could successfully pass this stage. Of course, now that he had the help of the breakthrough bead, he naturally passed this stage more smoothly. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel that his body had become stronger under the nourishment of his dharmic powers. During this process, his physical divine power, the dragon-elephant divine power, seemed to have advanced to another level. Without a hitch, Jiang Chengxuan had easily passed 2 stages. When he reached the soul stage, various familiar and unfamiliar scenes suddenly appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. There was actually a scene of him working as an office man in his previous life. To be honest, if he did not have the help of the breakthrough bead, he might be trapped in this stage for a long time. It was also possible for him to be lost in it. However, with the help of the breakthrough bead, he looked at these scenes like an outsider watching a movie. They could not confuse him at all. At the same time, he could clearly feel that his state of mind and even his soul were constantly strengthening during this process. Even his Tao heart was slowly refined during this process. As Jiang Chengxuan watched, he slowly closed his eyes. A mysterious comprehension began to appear in his mind. It was like a new sprout that was breaking out of the ground, growing bit by bit. Eventually, an unknown amount of time passed. Around him, countless wood-element spiritual qi suddenly gathered and gradually condensed in his palm. Immediately after, a jade-green heavenly saber took form in his hand, emitting a soul-stirring light. This saber was the Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber. It was formed from wood-element divine power. Once it was slashed out, it could suck away the opponent's vitality. At the same time, it could replenish the vitality of others, heal injuries, dharma powers, and so on. From a certain perspective, this divine power was a little evil. But I like it. Jiang Chengxuan's lips gradually curled up. In the next second, the Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber in his hand flew out. In an instant, a jade-green light bloomed. Numerous green sprouts and grass suddenly grew out of thin air everywhere in the entire cultivation room. The air was instantly filled with a fresh fragrance. However, this phenomenon did not last long. As the dharmic powers of the Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber in Jiang Chengxuan's hand dissipated, the phenomenon was also slowly going away. Jiang Chengxuan slowly exhaled. This seclusion could be said to be a successful one. Not only did he enter the Violet Palace realm, but he also used the breakthrough bead to comprehend a level 3 divine power unique to him. The Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber. This divine power was also a growth-type divine power like his physical divine power, the dragon-elephant divine power. In the cultivation world, divine powers were usually divided into 2 types. They were fixed-type divine powers and growth-type divine powers. For the fixed-type divine powers, they couldn't be upgraded or changed. If it was a level 3 divine power, it would forever remain a level 3 divine power. But the growth-type divine powers were different. They could be upgraded. For example, Jiang Chengxuan's dragon-elephant divine power and the Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber could become more powerful as his cultivation level increased. They were divine powers that could really accompany him as he went further down the cultivation journey. Moreover, if Jiang Chengxuan had further comprehension of these 2 divine powers, he could possibly bring out more of their potential. In short, only growth-type divine powers had the possibility of eventually evolving into supreme divine powers. However, in the current 9 essences cultivation world, be it the Violet Palace realm, the Golden Core realm, the Nascent Soul realm, or even above the Nascent Soul realm, Most of the divine powers were fixed type. Only a very small number of cultivators could obtain a growth-type divine power. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had just consolidated his cultivation at the first level of the Violet Palace realm when a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Congratulations, host. You have reached the Violet Palace realm and obtained a deduction bead. Deduction bead can allow you to deduce cultivation techniques, spells, divine powers, pill formulas, even heavenly secrets. To put it simply, this was an all-purpose item. Unfortunately, this deduction bead could only be used once. After using it, it would disappear on its own. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan was already considering if he should use this deduction bead to do something before he ended his seclusion. The first thing he considered was naturally the two incomplete cultivation techniques he currently had: the infinite wheel and the heavenly calculation technique. Next was the refinement of his intrinsic dharma treasure, the golden void sword. All of them could be deduced through the deduction bead. They could either be completed or perfected. To be honest, if possible, Jiang Chengxuan really wanted to complete and perfect them all. Unfortunately, reality did not allow it. He could only choose the one he needed the most to deduce. Under normal circumstances, the infinite wheel and the refinement of his instinct dharma treasure should be his priority. However, after thinking about it again and again, Jiang Chengxuan decided to use the deduction beat on the incomplete heavenly calculation technique. It was all for 7-star. He really couldn't guarantee that other than the soul-splitting worm, that old fellow wouldn't have any other tricks up his sleeve to secretly scheme against them. It would be good if he didn't. But what if he had? Jiang Chengxuan felt that it was better to be safe than sorry. Coincidentally, the heavenly calculation technique that Shen Mengsu gave them back then was a top-notch calculation technique. It could not only tell you the heavenly secrets, but it could also hide your heavenly secrets from being seen by others. It could also prevent others from casting a curse on you. It was definitely an excellent method to guard against the sneak attacks of some old cunning cultivators. Moreover, with such a special technique, he would feel much safer on the path of cultivation. Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated and immediately used the deduction bead he had just obtained on the heavenly calculation technique. In just a moment, the first level of the heavenly calculation technique, which was originally incomplete, was immediately completed. Then it was the second and third levels. However, when the content of the heavenly calculation technique was deduced to the third age, the deduction process stopped. This puzzled Jiang Chengxuan. What's going on? Why did the deduction process stop? He quickly came to a conclusion. It should be because at most, the deduction bead could only complete the current heavenly calculation technique to the third level. In the future, if he wanted to continue deducing this heavenly calculation technique, he would probably need a second, third, or even a fourth or fifth deduction bead. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan could not help but take the heavenly calculation technique more seriously. He knew that if it were a level 3, level 4, or even level 5 cultivation technique, his deduction bead would be able to complete it in one go. However, it could only deduce this heavenly calculation technique to the third level. Before the third level could be completely deduced, the process stopped. This could only mean that this special technique to calculate the heavenly secrets was definitely more extraordinary than what he had previously imagined. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately began to read the current content seriously. Intercepting the heavenly secrets and peeking into the future were the most basic functions of this technique. What was truly heaven-defying was that it could turn calamity into luck. However, for now, this was still too far away. At the very least, in the first 3 levels that he had seen so far, there was no content about turning the calamity into luck. It only roughly described some of the functions that this technique could provide in the further levels. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan could understand the complete content of the first 2 levels and cultivate it, and it wouldn't shorten his lifespan. The only problem was that this heavenly calculation technique could only be cultivated by one person. Unless that person died, even if the second person had the complete content of the heavenly calculation technique, they would not be able to cultivate it or even understand the key points. Time went on and on. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. And these 3 years, because of the news that Shen Ruyan and Shen Dayaming had reached the Violet Palace realm one after another, Some families and sects that had already begun to alienate the Shen family began to curry favor with the Shen family again, especially after the news that Shen Yuanlong had recovered from his injuries and had advanced further. Regarding this, the Shen family did not shut the door to these fence-sitters. However, for those who kicked them when they were down, the Shen family didn't intend to reconcile. For example, the Zhang family of Flatland County. In the past 3 years, the Zhang family never took the initiative to apologize. It was as if they had forgotten what they had done. This time, the Shen family was truly offended. At this moment, they were waiting for an opportunity to find fault with the Zhang family and make them pay a huge price. At the same time, flying Jade Peak. In the seclusion room where Jiang Chengxuan was, Jiang Chengxuan finally opened his eyes slowly. After 3 years, he successfully cultivated the heavenly calculation technique to the first level. At this moment, he was really awestruck by the power of the heavenly calculation technique. It was only the first level and the first level that had yet to be perfected, but it could already allow him to see many things that he couldn't see in the past. For example, his tribulation, the tribulation of others, and even the tribulation of the entire Flatland County could not be hidden from his calculations. He could even vaguely sense the existence of some opportunity. As long as he wanted to, he could get it easily. It was not an exaggeration to say that, although the current heavenly calculation technique did not increase Jiang Chengxuan's combat strength, it brought about a qualitative change to his overall ability. He looked down at his body and saw a faint starlight. Amidst the starlight, there was a trace of tribulation that was as black as ink, but incomparably tiny. This meant that this tribulation was very hidden and would not be easily triggered. However, once it was triggered, it would be life-threatening. With his cultivation, it would probably be very difficult for him to overcome it. A few words slowly came out of Jiang Chengxuan's mouth, Senior 7-star. Then he did not stay any longer. He stood up and left the cultivation room. Outside, he saw his Dao companion, Shen Ruyan, sitting quietly at the door of his cultivation room, guarding him. Clearly, in the years that he had been in seclusion to break through to the Violet Palace realm and cultivate the heavenly calculation technique, Shen Ruyan had never left. This realization made Jiang Chengxuan feel sweet inside. He couldn't help but step forward and reach out to hug Shen Ruyan, who opened her eyes and looked at him. "Husband, you're out of seclusion." Being suddenly hugged by Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but feel a little shy. She didn't forget to ask with concern, "How was it? How was your breakthrough this time?" "Everything went smoothly." Jiang Chengxuan leaned close to her and whispered in her ear gently, "Wife, it's been hard on you all these years." Shen Ruyan immediately shook her head with a smile. "Husband, what are you saying? There's no need to be so polite between us." "You are right." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. The couple cuddled for a while before separating. Then Jiang Chengxuan told her about the harvest of his seclusion all these years. When Shen Ruyan heard it, she could not help but reveal a look of shock, especially the part about the heavenly calculation technique. Even she could not imagine what kind of opportunity her husband had obtained. Not only could he complete the first 2 levels of the heavenly calculation technique, but he had also cultivated it to the first level. However, since Jiang Chengxuan didn't tell her, she naturally wouldn't probe further. There also were some things she did not tell him. It was not that she was unwilling to tell him, but given the current situation, there was no benefit for him to know. Instead, it would give her a lot of unnecessary burden. "By the way, Ruyan." At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but say, "Now that I've already cultivated the heavenly calculation technique to the first level, it's time to remove the hidden danger that is lurking around us." As soon as he finished speaking, a hazy halo suddenly appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's fingertips. Then he stretched out his finger and wiped it on himself and Shen Ruyan. In the next moment, their heavenly secrets could no longer be seen. Jiang Chengxuan could clearly see that the faint starlight on his and Shen Ruyan's bodies was covered by an even more mysterious power, and no aura leaked out. At the same time, starlight sect. On a certain mountain peak, 7-star, who was looking at the sky and calculating something, was stunned for a moment before frowning. "What's going on? Why do I feel like the 2 chess pieces I placed have disappeared? I can't feel their aura anymore." As he pondered, a starlight compass appeared in 7-star's hand. As the starlight compass began to spin, a mysterious aura began to appear on its surface. After a while, 7-Star put away the starlight compass in his hand, and his eyes suddenly became extremely deep. He said with interest, "Fellow Taoist Mengsu, is this the backup plan you left for your juniors? Were you already on guard against me? Or did you see the fate trajectory on them in advance and specially left a backup plan for them?" On the other side, feeling that some hidden danger around her had been removed, Shen Ruyan started to have a new understanding of the heavenly calculation technique that Jiang Chengxuan had cultivated. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and asked, "Husband, now that you've removed the hidden danger, will 7-Star be alerted and thus do something more radical?" Jiang Chengxuan smiled and shook his head. "Don't worry, he won't. With that old fellow's paranoid nature, I believe he will not suspect that we did it ourselves. Instead, he would think that Ancestor Mengsu left a backup plan for you and me. From now on, he will probably be even more careful not to give himself away." As they spoke, the couple did not stay in their cave abode for long. Soon, they left together. Soon after the two of them arrived outside, Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming, who had sensed the aura of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, appeared on flying Jade Peak. "Haha, Chengxuan, congratulations." As soon as Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, they cupped their fists and congratulated them with a smile. Clearly, they could already sense the aura of a Violet Palace Realm cultivator from Jiang Chengxuan. This made the two of them smile from ear to ear. Now, the Shen family had 4 Violet Palace Realm cultivators. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and returned the greeting. After exchanging pleasantries, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan invited Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming to a pavilion nearby. Several cups of spiritual tea appeared in Shen Ruyan's hand. As such, the 4 of them drank spiritual tea and talked about some things over the years. When Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming touched on the matter of the Zhang family, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. Jiang Chengxuan said, "Ancestor, brother, do you know what's going on with the Zhang family? Why hasn't the Zhang family expressed anything to the Shen family until now? Could it be that they really think that our Shen family will let things go just like that?" Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's question, Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming's eyes darkened. Shen Yuanlong said, "I only found out about this not long ago after investigation. The Zhang family seems to have the intention to cling to the Hong family. That's why they had the guts to provoke us blatantly." Clinging to the Hong family. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but look stunned. Was the Zhang family stupid? No matter what, they were both old Violet Palace Realm immortal families. Was there a need to do such a thing? One had to know that all the old Violet Palace Realm immortal families or sects valued their independence very much. Even the Genyang sect could not interfere with their internal matters. Moreover, the Hong family could not represent the Genyang sect. At most, it could be considered the leading family within the Genyang sect. What benefits could the Zhang family get from clinging to the Hong family? Did they think that a Violet Palace Realm immortal family or sect like the Shen family would give them special treatment because they were a lackey of the Hong family? Especially when personal interests were concerned. That was absolutely impossible. Unless the Hong family was now the de facto owner of the Genyang sect. I actually couldn't understand this at that time. At this moment, Shen Yuanlong continued to explain. However, after my careful investigation during this period of time, I finally learned a piece of news from within the Zhang family. Yes. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan subconsciously focused. Shen Yuanlong said, "Brother Zhang Beiyang, when he was breaking through to the 5th level of the Violet Palace Realm, he suffered from qi deviation and almost died. After that, he entered endless seclusion to recuperate. From that moment onward, he left the entire Zhang family in charge of the head of the Zhang family at that time and asked another supreme elder of the Zhang family, Zhang Beishan, to assist the head of the Zhang family. Unfortunately, Brother Beiyang has misjudged Zhang Beishan's character. I've met this person a few times in the past. The impression one got was that this person was ambitious but not capable. Although he has the cultivation of the Violet Palace Realm, he doesn't have the intelligence and the ability to control a family. However, controlling a family seemed to be what he liked to do. Just think about it, in the absence of Taoist Brother Beiyang, how can the head of the Zhang family, who is at the Foundation Establishment Realm, really restrain a Supreme Elder? Moreover, that Supreme Elder is not an outsider, but a member of the Zhang family who has the same blood flowing in him. As for what happened after that, one think you can imagine it even if I don't say it. Indeed, with Zhang Beishan's character, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan wouldn't find it strange no matter what ridiculous things he did. Even if that's the case, does he think that just because they've clung to the Hong family, they don't need to pay the price for what they did to us back then? A cold smile suddenly appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. Previously, he was in seclusion to break through to the Violet Palace realm, and Shen Ruyan had to guard outside his cultivation room. As for the other two Violet Palace realm cultivators of the Shen family, one had to guard the family base. If the other went to the Zhang family to ask for an explanation, it would probably be useless. However, it was different now, where the Shen family could mobilize at least 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators. The time was just right for them to make a move. However, in order to be safe, Jiang Chengxuan still used the heavenly calculation technique to deduce the outcome of their trip. The results showed that there were no accidents on this trip. Hence, Jiang Chengxuan stopped hesitating and smiled at Shen Yuanlong and Shen Dayaming. Ancestor, brother, now that I've broken through to the Violet Palace realm and come out of seclusion, it's about time for our Shen family to go to the Zhang family. One want to see if the Hong family that Elder Beishan relied on will come to his aid when the time comes. At the same time, in the Zhang immortal family's base, the newly appointed Zhang family head, Zhang Yehai, came to the mountain peak where his ancestor, Zhang Beishan, was with a worried expression. As for the family head who was appointed by Zhang Beiyang to be in charge of the Zhang family back then, he had disappeared for no reason a few years ago. As for where he had gone, who could tell? At this moment, Zhang Yehai waited on this mountain peak for a few days. When he saw his ancestor, Zhang Beishan, he immediately said, "Ancestor, the Shen immortal family already has 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators protecting it. Especially Shen Yuanlong. He is on the same level as Ancestor Beiyang. It's said that not only have his injuries recovered, but he has also successfully advanced to the 5th level of the Violet Palace realm. Do we really not have to go to the Shen family to explain the misunderstanding back then?" Towards the end, this new family head was already sweating profusely. Zhang Beishan was a middle-aged man with a narrow face. When he heard Zhang Yehai's words, he immediately snorted angrily. "It's just a small matter, what's there to explain?" If the Shen family really cared about this matter, they would have come to the Zhang family to demand an explanation long ago. The fact that they didn't come meant that they definitely did not take this matter to heart. Besides, at this point, a hint of smugness appeared on his face. Even if the Shen family really comes to demand an explanation for what happened back then, there's nothing to worry about. With my current relationship with the Hong family, if the Violet Palace realm cultivators of the Shen family really dared to come, the Hong family would definitely not sit back and do nothing. At that time, it will be us asking them for an explanation.